What do you think?
I think we're dead meat. Real dead meat.
You dead meat!
Go ahead and laugh, you guys. If I ever find a little bastards that did this, they're dead meat.
Welcome to the Dead Meat Podcast, your horror safe haven. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm James. We're married. We like to get scared together. Boy, do we got one for you today.
Yes. Buckle the fuck up. We're going to be sitting here for a while, I think. I don't know if you can hear this. We can get some notes ASMR.
Holy shit.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know if you can hear how thick those stacks of paper are. Some of it's a bit redundant. Just making sure that I have what I need like 2 or 3 times over so I don't miss stuff, but there they are. I'll link to them even in the description if people want both my notes that I compiled and researcher Bella also helped with this too, and I'll link all of my sources for everything that we talk about in this episode because wow, is Sinners a very dense movie that I'm excited and scared to talk about.
Man, Sinners, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it had some hype before it came out. It's Ryan Coogler. It's Michael B. Jordan. It's, you know, this big budget, ambitious movie. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll check it out. Sounds cool, I guess. Did not expect to absolutely love it so much.
Yeah. It's really neat to see a filmmaker do something outside of the Marvel machine. Even though I think his Marvel... I've only seen the first Black Panther, but I mostly liked it.
Yeah.
The mostly with an asterisk is just because inevitably it is a Marvel movie and it falls into the same things that I just don't like about those. But I think he even said in regards to making this movie, he started to feel trapped by that kind of system and realizing like I'm not telling these stories for myself. And so he went and made this and it's incredible.
This is only his 5th movie.
He's
38. What, 38?
He's 38.
And I think that this movie and the massive success it has had at the box office these first 2 weeks has put him in the director who gets to do whatever he wants camp, at least for now.
That'll be fun to see what his next thing is because he's going to get just kind of
Blank check,
fuck you money to make whatever he wants.
It's interesting because, I mean, there's already a lot of Oscar buzz around this movie. It's on track to be one of the most successful movies post-COVID, especially in terms of like R-rated or horror movies. Obviously not, competing with like the giant superhero stuff, but it's really on track to be successful. There's a conversation around the deal that he had.
Yes,
where
we
the
could talk
rights
about that.
for this movie revert back to him in 25 years. And then apparently some people felt that some articles about the film were almost hit pieces or definitely setting it up to fail by saying it needed to make a certain amount to turn a profit, which is funny because now it looks like it's going to blow past that amount if things continue on the current trajectory. Variety in particular.
I was going to mention that article because it's so funny to now watch Variety's headlines after that article. It's like, oh, someone got yelled at. They had lots of emails were sent. Lots of meetings were had.
It seemed as though some of the more business-oriented studio suits and execs maybe didn't want this movie to do well just because of that not unprecedented but very rare deal that he had where the movie rights would go back to the filmmaker instead of remaining in perpetuity with the studio as part of their long tail system to make money. Coogler bet on himself with this one, and it looks like it's a bet that paid off despite some people working against it.
I love this quote from, and again, we have referenced Richard Newby's work in past episodes. One of my favorite film journalists. He wrote his review for Sinners in The Hollywood Reporter. We used his review of Nope as kind of a like skeleton outline for our discussion on Nope, which also ended up being a very long episode. I think he's extremely insightful. He picks up on things that just completely fly over my head. I love this bit in his article about the deal that he made with Warner Brothers. He says, Ryan Coogler's deal with Warner Brothers, in which he retains the rights to the film in 25 years, has been the source of much conversation opening weekend, with some insiders calling it dangerous or a potential death knell for studios. And even more insidious was the New York Times' box office coverage of the movie, which stated, Mr. Coogler will then own it, despite not paying for it. The suggestion that Coogler should not own what he creates, but furthermore is somehow stealing it, is a gross miscalculation, which also ignores that Coogler's production company, Proximity Media, did invest money into the film. He also talks a little bit about other deals that were made like this previously and how there wasn't as much panic about
Like Tarantino.
Yes, but I don't see how anyone with any understanding of what they just witnessed can walk away from Sinners thinking that corporations should be able to lay claim to something they did not create in perpetuity. Such a defense of modern vampirism has its roots, intentional or not, in racism. There's also the fact that Quentin Tarantino has made similar deals for his work, including with Sony for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, in which he regains the rights over a period of 30 years. That decision was praised by industry insiders with no sign of danger afoot. And then his review discusses, that concept of ownership and almost like leasing what you've created for a studio that maybe technically owns it, or a studio you've created it for. And he does incorporate really elegantly the parallels between that and something we see portrayed in this movie, sharecropping, which is, and he points out that this movie has now started to become its own meta narrative because of this controversy with this studio deal. It's super interesting. It's a really weird time in film, and I kind of love how Coogler, like you said, betting on himself has really added another very rich layer to what this movie is.
And I understand studios deserving to make a profit if they put up the money for a movie.
Right.
Like, they're putting up the money, the movie wouldn't exist without that money. But to own it forever, I think this seems like a happy compromise. You know, the studio gets a set number of years to recoup any monies made by the movie that they put money into. And then after that time, the creative force behind it gets it back. Like, that just seems natural to me. I mean, that's only the beginning of this discussion of the movie. That's the meta aspect. The movie itself has so many themes and incredible things to dig into. If you are somehow living under a rock and you don't know what this movie is, go see it. Go see it in a theater. The sound is incredible. It was shot on 70 millimeter for IMAX. So if you can see it in IMAX, please do so. There are some incredible aspect ratio changes that the first time we saw it on a IMAX theater. It wasn't like the true IMAX.
We have not been able to see it true IMAX because that shit is sold out.
That shit's sold out.
Which is
even
good,
the front
but
row is sold out for that. Which we saw Oppenheimer front row,
we
70
saw
millimeter.
Oppenheimer front row.
Not enjoyable.
We were like that still of Willem Dafoe in the Vincent Van Gogh movie where he's just
like my neck hurt after that.
Yeah.
But go see it if you can. It's so fun. I won't even say too much about it other than it takes place in the 30s in Mississippi. Michael B. Jordan's there. It's a lot about blues music, and I'll just leave it at that, dude.
Yeah, it was shot on IMAX 65 millimeter and Ultra Panavision 70.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes. The initial plan was to shoot this in 16 millimeter, which is interesting.
Whoa.
That's very different vibes.
Yeah.
I've got some cool stuff here about the actual shooting of this and the DP and that kind of process. The first woman to shoot on 65 millimeter for a feature, which is kind of neat.
Oh, it was a female DP? Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. What's her name?
Her name is Autumn Durald Arkapaw.
Wow.
Yes.
She kicked ass. The movie looks great.
Yeah. She consulted with Christopher Nolan's cinematographer, Hoyt van Hoytema, who did Oppenheimer.
Yep.
And
Nope.
I love this quote. He told her, drive it like you stole it in regards to shooting on this formula. He's like, it's going to scare, like the camera's huge, the film, like it's all
familiar because Nope, I mean, I think Nolan movies also,
Yeah.
but Nope, I remember seeing all that footage of him with that camera and just like, it's a huge camera.
Yeah.
Like, it is just a piece of gear.
Yeah. Another reason why Nope and this movie would be an interesting double feature. I think they work really well as companion films. Mm-hmm. I think they're dealing with similar-ish things in terms of exploitation, entertainment, ownership of art.
They are also the 2 highest grossing opening weekends for an original film, not based on an IP, since COVID.
Wow.
Nope was the one to beat, and Sinners passed it.
Yeah.
So Black Horror
Horror,
brings the
Black
audience
Horror,
on, dude.
Black casts. There's some really cool stuff happening in that space, and audiences will turn up for it.
Dude,
you know,
it's just, I can't speak highly enough. The cast is perfection. Not a weak link among them. The music, again, is amazing. There are some songs, there are some shots that we keep listening to the soundtrack and the score, which are 2 separate albums.
A lot.
I can't stop thinking about it. And if we can see it in 70 millimeter IMAX, if fucking Thunderbolts or whatever doesn't take it away, I will see it a 3rd time in theaters because it's just that damn good. The entire 2-hour, 20-minute runtime, I'm not bored ever. I'm looking forward to the next thing that happens because all of it is so goddamn good. I just love it. We just had the award show, the Dead Meat Horror Awards. In fact, the panel, I think, for that will be the next podcast episode after this. But I obviously, since we just had that premiere, I can't stop thinking about how this is going to be nominated for so many of those categories.
I really hope that I can't wait to see if they do any performances from this at the Oscars.
That'd be so good,
Please.
especially I Lied to You, the Wonder song.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It'd be really cool. Hopefully if they do it, they spend the money on making it a big production, because I feel like sometimes the musical numbers at the Oscars they don't want to spend the money on.
I guess let's get into it. Again, go fucking see it. If you haven't, go see it. If you have, maybe go see it a second time.
Yep.
It's great.
All right, yeah, let's just jump right in. God, we're going to talk about so much shit.
I know.
If you're in like high school, if you're in like an AP US history class right now, this episode will be cool. And if you're writing like papers and stuff and you choose to use this or this time period as inspiration for a class paper, yeah, again, I have all my notes down here. Let this help you. We're all going to learn something today.
That's what I find really cool about this movie is the more I learn about it, the more it seems that Coogler took an almost Eggers-like approach to making this historically accurate and informed by the actual things that took place. I was just reading about the Mississippi Delta. I wasn't familiar with the region in the northwest of the state. It is not actually the Mississippi River's delta. It is the alluvian plain from the floodplains of the Mississippi and the other Yuzu, I think, river. But it's a historical area of Mississippi where like everything you see in this movie really took place there. There's a Wikipedia article on Chinese immigrants to the Mississippi Delta.
Yes,
like,
I have a lot of research on that specifically. I also saw, and I wish that I wrote down her name. I just kind of saw it in passing and forgot to write it down because there's just a lot. But Ryan Coogler had someone who she knew the history of like Chinese immigrants to this area, and she was there as a consultant and was there to help with. Oh, are you going to mention all the names?
Well, there
credits?
was a list in the credits of all these various consultants. One that I found really funny was there was a twins consultant.
I have notes about the twins.
Oh, really? Okay,
yes.
I'm curious about that because they had, I guess they had twins consulting Michael B. Jordan, who plays twins, on how to be a twin. But the thing that really was like, damn, they did their research was I saw a historical gambling consultant. That's not even a big part of the movie.
No, there's like a scene.
Yeah, there's a couple of shots of them playing in the juke joint, cards and gambling. But apparently, they wanted to make sure it was accurate to that time and region, and that's fucking awesome. That's what I'm saying, like an Eggers-like devotion to accuracy, and that just adds so much to these themes because these themes feel very relevant nowadays. But this shows that this isn't just like taking this time period and putting a contemporary like skin on it or viewing it through a contemporary lens.
Right. It's not using the kind of aesthetic of the past to specifically tell a story about the now.
Present, yeah.
It's more like the reverberating effects of how things that have happened in our past still, those don't just go away once that generation dies. That stuff carries on throughout history up to the present and into the future. Here we go. The twin consultants, Noah and Logan Miller. They are some filmmaker friends of Ryan Coogler. They are identical twins. And they helped Michael B. Jordan get into the psychology of how twins think, how they move, how they act when they're separated versus the differences when they are together, like how their mannerisms and everything. I loved reading about why they are twins in this. Ryan Coogler apparently is terrified of doppelgangers, as are we all. He talks about how like twins have kind of a cool role in mythology, and also just the idea of twins and their role in a community. He had aunts growing up that apparently were identical twins, and he loved the idea that twins are kind of typically well known in their communities, and they're always called the twins, and they tend to be a little bit nefarious, and that's so true in my experience.
Nefarious or mischievous?
Mischievous, I would say, like tricksters.
Yeah.
Because I have two uncles that are identical twins, and they were also the youngest brothers out of my dad's many siblings. So I think that really added to the like, oh, they're the tricksters. They're always getting in trouble, and they're we're the twins. And they were always the uncles that were my favorite to hang out with because they weren't, afraid to like play games with the kids and hang out with us and be silly. And then you have your friends you grew up with.
Two of my best friends growing up were Ricky and Randy Solis. Loved those guys to death, and they were just, they were the twins. They were such shits. I mean, it helped that they were like these two 6'4" skinny, like just tricksters for sure. Yeah, you bastards.
Yeah,
love you guys. I miss you.
So I really and it's so funny because in my case and your case, my uncles and your friends also have the same first letters of their names.
So common, yeah.
Yes.
Which was funny because that lends to like we would call Ricky Pricky because like a prick, and then Randy became Prandy, so it was Pricky and Prandy, which then became Pritchard and Prandel.
Yeah.
Their real name, their full names. You just have a lot of fun. There's a lot of mileage to get with twins.
Yeah. So I just think it's nuts that how does he look like two different people in this movie, though?
That's the coolest thing about this is these characters, Smoke and Stack, which are great names, the Smokestack twins. Not their real names, their nicknames. Their real names, though, both start with E.
Yep, Elias and Elijah.
Mm-hmm. So follows the trend.
I think Elijah's Smoke and Elias is Stack.
Okay.
I think.
And Gressel's nodding his head. So, Smoke and Stack are so distinct. And what's nice is that at first the movie holds your hands. Smoke is in blue. Stack is in red. Smoke has like a flat cap. Stack has a wide brim hat. Their attire is otherwise like Smoke is more conservatively dressed.
Yeah, I even think his ties tied a little tighter.
Yeah, but after a while, like halfway through the movie, the hats are gone. And you still can recognize them.
Yeah, I think they still keep the color accents, but it doesn't rely so heavily on those color schemes through the whole movie. But what's crazy is he holds himself so differently as these characters to the point where, to me, Smoke looks like a bigger guy. I don't understand.
Stack looks thinner. And like lankier.
Smoke has to me what looks like a thicker neck and he's more like barrel chested, but it's the same fucking guy.
I think he's just holding himself more. Smoke is much more anxious.
Yes.
He's way more
he carries a lot of tension in his body. Yeah.
Where because in the first scene they're waiting for the business guy to arrive, who ends up being a clan member, and like he's checking his watch. Stack is just leaned up against the car, very open with his body and physicality, much like standing straighter. He's rolling the cigarette, which later we see Smoke trying to do in the end, and his hands are shaking. He just like Smoke is much more just like he needs to let off some pressure, and Stack is just having a good time.
Yeah, Smoke's like when I sometimes get really anxious, I'll realize I'm not breathing, like I'm holding my breath, and I feel like he does that. I just imagine that that's what is going on there. Just lots of tension.
Oh, I do have in my notes that I thought of Smoke and Stack as the Usos of the Delta.
That's right.
Smoke would be Jay. Stack would be Jimmy.
Who's then Roman Reigns?
Well, Sammy would be Solo then, right? Even though Solo's their brother and Sammy's their cousin, but Sammy's no Roman. He's a little guy.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe their Roman Reigns didn't make it out of Chicago. Because
it's just Al Capone is Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
No, Al Capone's Paul Heyman. What are we talking about?
My clients, Smoke and Stack.
Oh man, yeah. So this is gonna be hard to go through like linearly, but I mean, right away, the beginning of the movie talks about the tradition of music, and specifically these musicians throughout different cultures that are so powerful and have such a gift that they are able to essentially commune and summon spirits from the past
And the future.
Yeah, and there's different names for them. And
yeah, and specifically the three cultures that it mentions are ancient Ireland, the Choctaw, and the West Africa. So those are the three relevant cultures in this movie. Even though the Choctaw appear in a scene and then leave. Let's just talk about them now.
Okay.
Because again, we don't have to go linear. I'm assuming you've seen the movie. You should have seen the movie. So they show up for the introduction of Remick when he very pointedly falls into the frame.
He falls from the sky like Mr. Bean in the opening credits.
yeah. Oh, they're like, oh, Mr. Bean's an alien because of that shot. Yeah, Remick just fucking falls because he was presumably flying.
Yeah.
And he is smoking because the sun's still up and he is being chased by Choctaw, and he finds the home of, lucky for him, these clan people who are easy to manipulate.
Right.
The smoke on him, I just read this GQ article with actor, what's his name? Who is my favorite fucking person now, Jack O'Connell.
Oh, yeah.
It was a GQ interview with Jack O'Connell. The smoke was practical. So was at the end, the guitar thing in his head. That was magnets.
Whoa.
Fucking magnets,
that's
man.
cool.
How does that work?
But
yeah, so the Choctaw are in pursuit of him, and they try to talk to Joan and Bert, the clan members who let him in, and try to warn them that what Remick says he isn't. So they're knowledgeable about vampires, which Remick is. Vampires is the villains here.
Yeah.
But then the sun's going down, and they're like, yo, it's getting late. It's too late. We got peace out.
Yeah.
And they leave. He wishes them well. He's like, God be with you, and they peace out.
Yeah.
And they never come back to the movie.
Right.
I'm totally okay with this. Some people thought that, like, some people wanted them to come back and return.
I don't know. I'm not going to say people are wrong for wanting more of them. I like this peek into another movie almost. I kind of like when that happens in movies where it's like, oh, there was a whole ass other movie going on here that we're getting just a hint of, and it's so tantalizing.
Yeah.
And I just think it tells you so much without saying much at all. We instantly kind of get what's going on here, especially later with the reveal that yes, he is a vampire. We get the understanding that the Choctaw, there's an established relationship here, and they understand what he is, and just them trying like, hey, we gotta get this guy out of your house. If you let him in, we've got a problem. And their instant hostility, and them just going, okay, ma'am, goodbye.
Yeah, good luck. See ya.
It tells such a story in such little time.
And it also sets up the themes throughout of how the Irish Remick relates to the Black Americans he's talking to, both of whom are people who have been colonized in the past, similarly to Native Americans who show up here. And then your research uncovered, which some people might be familiar with, so, maybe this is common knowledge, but I found this extremely interesting, the relationship between specifically the Choctaw and the Irish.
Yeah, the Choctaw and the Irish, and I mean the Irish and Native Americans period, but the Choctaw specifically, there is really interesting history there. I gotta flip to where this is.
Yeah, we're just going all over the place.
We're going all over the
You took
damn
so much
place.
time to put these in order.
I know,
And I'm just
now
like, fuck it, we're gonna do
you're
it
just
non-linear.
throwing my papers in the air. The Irish have a really fascinating relationship with other colonized or otherwise historically disenfranchised people. Native Americans are one. Black Americans are another. Currently, Palestine.
Oh, yeah.
There's a big relationship there. Typically, I mean, Kneecap is in the news right now for being very outspoken on that front.
And that comes from both their own experience at home,
Right.
having to deal with the British and that colonization, and unless you forgot your history class, when the Irish came to America, they were not considered whites. Like, Irish Americans weren't considered white.
Yeah.
Just like how Italian Americans weren't considered white for a while. It took them a while to be, assimilated enough or just, you know.
They did eventually assimilate. The Irish were in a very interesting position where when they first got here, like you said, they weren't considered white.
Which is insane. They're the whitest people.
They're very white, yes. They would get here and there'd be signs up, you know, outside of businesses like no Irish.
Irish need not apply, yeah.
If you Google them, you can find old like caricatures of the Irish who were depicted as being very ape-like, which also Black Americans or just like Africans in general. Also, there's a history of them being depicted as ape-like or just less than human, you know? So there's that. And when you think of the history of the Irish are Britain's first colony. And so Britain perfected a lot of their colonization techniques on the Irish. They were almost like this weird incubator for what they would then take to the rest of the world when they were building their empire. So that is a big reason why the Irish, there is this tradition of them being empathetic to other people who experience similar things. But then there is a divide between the Irish, you know, proper from Ireland, and then Irish Americans, because when the Irish get here, they're still very much Irish. They see all these, they're discriminated against. They are then pitted against Black Americans who had just recently been free. This is like right after the Civil War. So there's this
1860s Reconstruction did not go well.
1860s in America is like maybe our most violent decade ever.
And the most lost opportunity decade.
Yes.
You know, with Reconstruction, like fucking Andrew Johnson becoming president after Lincoln, he was more of a Southern sympathizer. And so it was like, you guys handle it yourself, as opposed to like helping these states deal with this new population of legal citizens.
And before I get totally sidetracked here, because I realize I'm about to wander right away from talking about this, the Choctaw, which was like what started this whole tangent in the first place.
Hopefully this is fun.
No, this is good. This is good. And by the way, I am I've learned so much of this doing research for this specifically. I'm hoping people listen to this and consider it more of a gateway to learning more about these things rather than me being any kind of expert, or you know what I mean. That's why I have sources up the ass that are gonna be in the description. So bear with me here. So the Trail of Tears is the mid 1800s, where a lot Native Americans, Choctaw specifically.
Is it 1830s because of Jackson?
It's Jackson. I think it's like late 1830s through the 1840s.
Okay.
Are you fact checking me right now?
Between 1830 and 1850.
Okay. They are forced off their lands in the Mississippi area, I believe, and they are forced to Oklahoma. Most of them, at least, are. And the Irish famine is going on right around the same time. After the Trail of Tears happens, and during the ongoing famine in Ireland, because of this, there's a reciprocal thing going on. We've talked about the Irish sympathies towards other colonized people. There's a similar sympathy on behalf of Native American. They feel the same way about the Irish, and so despite everything that they had just gone through, multiple tribes. I think the most well-known one is the Choctaw gathering, $170, which at that time period, I don't know if we can inflation calculator back that far, but that's a lot of money that they gather to send to Ireland during the famine. And this article said that also a separate, I think it was another like group of Choctaw in this other part of Oklahoma also donated $150. The Cherokee Nation donated $200. So like there's these, you know, groups of people that did that. In 2017, a stainless steel outdoor sculpture was dedicated in County Cork, Ireland, as a memorial to the Choctaw people for their donations during the famine. And this article I was reading about was written during COVID. There was a GoFundMe page raising money to help the Navajo and Hopi nations who were really impacted by COVID. And if you go look at all the comments on it, so many of them are from Ireland. This is a quote from one of the donations. The Choctaw Nation sent the Irish monetary aid during the Irish potato famine. During this dark period in Irish history, over 1 million Irish died while they were abandoned by their British rulers. But the Irish never forget, and we are repaying the generosity of the Choctaw Nation now in 2020, not forgetting that they too were suffering greatly under British rule during this period also. It's really inspiring. It's like really, really beautiful. It doesn't just end there. There is this historical kind of back and forth in terms of like advocacy, and it's really cool and beautiful, but it has to be so intentional that they name the Choctaw multiple times in this.
Yes.
And Remick is running from them.
Mm-hmm. So the intro mentioned those three cultures. And now we're in Clarksdale, Mississippi, in the Mississippi Delta in 1932. And it's one of those openings where it's like we see a little bit of something that happened, and then it's like one day earlier. But what's fun is that if you know this movie's about vampires and you know vampire lore, Sammy, our main character, I've seen people say that for Oscars he would be supporting actor nom, which I could see. But it's him and the brothers' story.
Yeah.
I think it's more Sammy's story, but they take up more screen time, I think. But in any case, he drives up. He's looking real bad. He's got slashes on his face. He's all beat up. And he has his broken guitar.
Yeah, just the neck of the guitar.
Yep. And he opens the church doors. And what's fun is that his dad, the preacher, says, "Come in, son." And that's when he actually crosses the threshold to enter. So between that and the very jump scary flashes that happen as he's like hugging his dad and talking to him, those are maybe the scariest moments of the movie. You wonder, is he a vampire? Is he turned? And we will, of course, see later he's not. But it adds a little bit of a mystery before it goes 24 hours earlier or, one day earlier.
Right.
Just a nice little, setting up a little bit of a mystery.
Yeah.
And then I love that. I mean, the early dawn shoot of him in the fields humming. I love the imagery of his row of cotton all picked already as the other sharecroppers come in to do their work for the day as he's wrapping up. He got up early and did his work so that he could go and have this adventure with his cousins in town. It tells you who he is, how it tells you that if he sets his mind to something, he's going to do it. He's determined. And yeah, these are sharecroppers. He says later when he introduces himself before he plays, he identifies himself as a sharecropper, and the crowd is like, yeah, that's what we do too.
Yep.
And so for people, again, who may have forgotten their American history classes, you want to explain sharecropping, hun?
Yeah, sure. So this is right after the Civil War. We've got a bunch of freed slaves that the U.S. government's like, shit, what do we do now? And like you said, it was kind of just left up to the South, which hey, maybe that was really fucking dumb.
It was. I mean, Lincoln getting assassinated, and then the election of 1872 or 6 with Rutherford B. Hayes, that compromise they did where because it was like a tied election vote, and they gave the presidency to Rutherford B. Hayes, but the legislature to the Democrats in exchange for them leaving the South alone and letting them handle ending Reconstruction. That was the end of Reconstruction.
Right.
That was why it was called Rutherford B. Hayes.
Yeah. So then what happens is not only do you have all these freed people with no work, you also have a bunch of really pissed off white landowners who are like, well, what about all that free labor though? I've got all this land that needs to be worked. So this is where sharecropping comes from, which poor farmers, so in this case, poor black farmers, are granted access to their own plots of land, and they in return give up a portion of the yield of crops, which is called their shares, back to their landowner. And so they're basically...
so they don't own the land.
They don't own the land.
They work the land.
No, they work the land, yes, yeah, in return for a share of the profit. So they're at the whims of these landowners and whatever profits, they are given.
Yeah, it's like a half step up from slavery.
It is, yeah.
It's like it's paid slavery, but
right.
slave wages.
Yeah, it's like it's what they could get away with. That was the closest to slavery. You know what I mean? That and the jailing practices as well, like prison farms were another practice that was like, okay, here's another way we can kind of just
Another
do
loophole.
slavery again.
Yeah.
Which we do see a brief depiction of that in this film as well, with the
Yep.
chain gang on
The
the
chain
side of the
gang,
road.
yeah.
We can talk about them a little
Because
later.
lest you forget, the 13th Amendment bans slavery except for in cases of incarceration. Like, slavery is not 100% banned
No.
in this country, which is fucked up.
Hillary Clinton had slaves. I'm just saying. She did. When
What?
she was living in the governor's... Yeah, Hillary and Bill, they used incarcerated...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that detail.
So, yeah, this basically deprives black farmers of economic mobility because they're just kept in this cycle of debt, essentially. They owe to these landlords that they're working for.
And this movie doesn't harp on that point. It doesn't, the landowners who own the land that they're working on are never seen
We
or
never
never
see
referred to.
them.
They're not the villains. It's just a fact of matter. Like, it's their way of life. It's how these people lived, and it's how they identified, obviously. But it just kind of contextualizes why so much of the dialogue and so much of what drives these characters is looking for freedom. That, like, so many lines are just, I want to be free of all this for a day. This is a great day to have freedom. Because even though they are de jure freed because slavery is illegal, as sharecroppers, they're not really that free.
Richard Newby talks about that exact thing in his article as well. Coogler takes a hard look at faux freedom in the Mississippi Delta, 1932, only 67 years removed from the official end of slavery in the United States. The majority of black residents are sharecroppers. They have little in the way of material or social value in terms of what is measured by white society to show for it. Their houses are sparsely furnished on the same plantations that maybe their family would have been enslaved on. And there's little in the way of upward mobility outside of becoming a preacher or packing up and rolling the dice somewhere else. And within all of that, you have the KKK. There's documented freedom, but that freedom doesn't feel free, a point Coogler returns to at the end of the film.
So Sammy yearns for this freedom. He, not only from this sharecropping life, but also from the expectation that he will follow in his father's footsteps as a preacher. His dad wants him to do the sermon tomorrow with him. And Sammy, because of how driven and intelligent he is, we see that he knows the sermon. Like, he starts reading from the book and then closes it and continues on because he knows it well enough. It's just not what he wants to do. He doesn't want to get caught up in this.
Right.
And he's much more... it's a much more appealing life to him, the ones that his cousins went out to do. They left 7 years ago. They went north. It was during one of the Great Migrations in the United States, where a lot of African Americans migrated from the south to the north. It caused so many issues all around, just because, like, then you have Northerners upset about them losing jobs to these new
Irish immigrants
Irish-
upset that
yep.
they are now competing yes.
for labor. Yeah, so a whole bunch of things. But what's interesting about Smoke and Stack is that they have returned, and they even tell Sammy, like, Chicago's not that great, because Sammy thinks it's like this great place in the north where racism isn't a thing.
Yes, it's so, because he's like, there's no Jim Crow there.
Yeah, and legally there's not.
And legally there's and it's like, legally there's no slavery. Legally, everyone has the right to vote in this country now. You know what I mean? It's like it just reminds me of all these ways where people are like, well, we ended racism because of the Voting Rights Act, or stuff like that, where it's like, yes, on paper.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of American history, especially when it's taught in the earlier grades, is like North versus South in Civil War. North were against slavery, and so you just assume, oh, the North
wasn't racist. Yeah, no, the North was racist.
Yeah, everyone was racist.
Yes.
And Smoke and Stack tell him that Chicago's no different from Mississippi. It's just tall buildings instead of plantations.
Right.
And so that's why they've returned to deal with the devil they know instead of the devil up there. Also, it's because they robbed a bunch of people.
That too.
Turns out, we find out later, they stole a whole bunch of beer from the Irish and wine from the Italians, and are hoping that they'll just accuse each other and kind of pit them against each other.
Yeah.
We'll never know if they figured out what happened and came after them because, vampires attacked. But Annie sure seems to think they will eventually find out and come looking for Smoke and Stack to pay their dues.
Yeah, and they come back to open up a juke joint in a sawmill that they purchased from this guy named Hogwood.
Hogwood, dude.
I've seen pointed out, it's interesting, Hogwood kind of sounds like Hollywood a little bit. Maybe that's a coincidence. I don't know. But they purchase this thing from a good old boy.
He's
This guy's
boy,
a
dude.
cartoon of a Southern white man. You
Yeah.
know? Holy shit.
Yeah, he's calling him boy. I love ain't no boys here, just
Yeah.
grown men
Ooh.
with grown with grown men money and grown men bullets.
Yep. Yeah. So they don't know this, but that is the Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Even though he claims the Klan is gone.
The Klan don't exist no more. Yeah.
Yeah, which iteration of because the Klan had a few moments in history. This might be the second time of the Klan.
Like the revival of the,
Yeah, because initially I think it was post Civil War,
Mm.
and then obviously there was a big flare up in the 50s and 60s during civil rights movements. But I think that was the third one. I think there was a middle one here, maybe during the Depression, because this takes place during
Yeah.
no one ever mentions it.
Yeah.
No one ever says, "Oh, we're living in the middle of this Great Depression." But obviously, you know,
You can feel it.
You can feel it.
Like someone paying with wooden nickels. That's a Depression era thing. I mean, all these.
Annie handling all local tender, like the
Yeah.
money that she gets from the kids for the things that she's selling. Smoke looks at it and is like, this isn't even real money.
Yeah, when they're talking about the juke joint, they say "for us, by us."
Yes.
And this is a detail I would not have picked up on that Richard Newby points out, that this is a meta reference to Damon John's apparel line FUBU. You know. FUBU.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Which stands for us, by us. And he
Oh,
points
I
out.
didn't know that.
Yes. And
Huh.
that he points out that this is one of the most successful black businesses in history that eventually grew too big until its original significance was consumed by other partners and collaborators.
Wow. So they've got Sammy now, the cousins do.
Yeah.
And they're driving around because they want to set up this juke joint. So I love how the first act of this movie is just setting up the pieces,
Mm-hmm.
introducing these characters.
Yeah, I went into this movie really not knowing much about it. I think the most I knew about it was the ad copy I read last week for it. I tried to avoid trailers and stuff. And so this whole kind of first act, I'm like, what's this story gonna be? Like, where are we going here?
Yeah. But in the meantime, I'm having a great time.
Yeah, it's great.
Learning.
I'm hanging out.
Hanging out, man.
Yeah.
This movie has such good vibes. Is Slim the first one that Stack and Sammy go to grab?
Yes.
So Slim,
Yeah,
played by
because Smoke and Stack split up to go do stuff. Yeah.
Delroy Lindo.
Yeah, secret British person.
That guy's British, dude.
No.
Putting
Yeah.
on the thickest Southern accent in the world here.
Check out our friend BJ Colangelo's interview with Delroy Lindo, where they talk about like black horror and all kinds of cool stuff.
Just
Yeah.
blew my mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Secret British, they'll get you.
I am not super familiar with his work because like he's very well known. He has an NAACP Image Award, just like all sorts of awards, Screen Actor Guild's awards. It's just everything he's been in, I either haven't seen in forever or just have missed. But he's in like Malcolm X, Crooklyn, Clockers, Defy Bloods. Like I haven't seen these. He's also in Cider House Rules, Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah.
Just big movies
Yeah.
that just happen to have eluded me. But he's standout.
He's so fun
this.
in this. He's so fun and like also deeply sad.
Yeah.
Like the way he toes the line of like what this character is really kind of amazing, because he's like this comedic relief,
Yeah.
but they also make him one of the most tragic characters. It's like this. It's like a sad clown thing, kind of.
Well, yeah,
almost.
it's because after they pick him up and the three of them are driving and they pass that chain gang.
So this is like basically a prison farm. So again, this is an attempt to get back the free labor that white landowners enjoyed prior to the Civil War. Basically, what would happen is like black men would essentially be kidnapped to just work on these farms. It was really lucrative to convict black men for very minor offenses, like have an excuse to arrest them and put them on these prison farms. And like we still see that, like that's still a thing. That's why when people talk about, you know, like abolishing the prison system and prison reform, it's like it's because we are currently like our prison system today is just a descendant of this. That's where it's and policing as well. It's like deeply rotten, you know, like this is where it all comes from. It's extremely racist. The entire history of it's racist. It was just meant to supplement labor that had gone missing after the Civil War. So
Yeah, and he passes them. He knows them.
yeah, they were musicians that he was traveling with.
Yeah, and so he gives his backstory, and it's the rest of the movie. He's comic relief. here is where we see what's underneath all that. And he tells the story about how he and his friends were arrested, but then they played music in the jail, and the jailers were really impressed and like took them to a white party.
Right, yeah, they brought them around to different like white parties and stuff.
And so like they got to make some money making music for white people who he says like white people love the blues, they just don't like who make it. And he says that with his money, he just bought alcohol. The guy's an alcoholic. That's how they lure him into the job, because he doesn't want to give up a steady gig he has, but they lure him in partially with, check out this Irish beer we got, all of it that you can drink.
Yeah.
But one of his buddies wanted to take that money and do something more with it and travel to Arkansas and become a preacher there, I believe. And he gets to the train station, and the train conductor, I think, or someone there notices and realizes how much money he has and just makes up a story about how this guy like raped his wife, and the guy gets lynched and killed, which is a story like very common in American history of black men being accused, especially of raping white women.
Yes.
Even if it's like a consensual relationship or nothing there at all, or like looking at them later on when the white vampires come and try to enter the club.
Yeah.
One of Smoke's oppositions to it is, what if someone here accidentally spills something on
someone
them?
Someone looks at the
women too long.
The wrong way. Yeah.
And then they have an issue because it's exactly stories like these where they can use that as a preface to just like bring the law in or bring in a gang and lynch these people. So Slim tells that story, and obviously Sammy's really shaken up by hearing it, but immediately after telling it, Slim starts a beat with his foot.
He kind of makes this noise of like just anguish, but then it turns into humming and singing.
Yeah. And what stood out to me is that earlier at the train station when they picked up Slim and he met Sammy, and Stack is saying like Sammy's the next great blues musician, Slim laughs his ass off and he's like, "What do you know about the blues, boy?" And this showcases Sammy doesn't know about the blues, at least the root of them, or like the experience that leads to some of these songs.
Right.
Because Sammy is so taken aback by this, but it's just a lived experience that Slim turns into the blues. He has taken this like pain and trauma and immediately copes with it by segueing into a blues music. And they tell Sammy, like, you got that guitar, right? Start playing.
Yep.
This is the blues.
Yep.
And it shows that, Sammy, because of his age and inexperience, doesn't really know. He will soon, but...
Right. It's like both living through certain things and then also having the pain of your elders given to you through like stories and music. And
yeah. So this is Sammy learning the blues.
Yeah.
Not just the music part of it, but the roots of it.
Right. It is interesting. He talks about spending his paycheck on alcohol and being content with that. And it's kind of, I wonder if that's a nod to alcohol. Like alcohol as a weapon is a really interesting kind of fucked up part of American history where slaves would be given alcohol, not during work hours, but on like weekends and stuff as a way to keep
kind
them,
of pacify them.
Yeah. And to keep them, pliant and to stop them from being, like having sober thoughts about their situation, that they don't want them to be thinking about their, stuff during their time off, keep them drunk.
Oh, interesting.
Similarly, alcohol was introduced to Native American populations, where that is unfortunately still a problem. Alcoholism.
I think because I think there is a genetic predisposition, and so they introduce that combined with the genetic predisposition leads to tragic results.
Yeah, and then stereotypically also the Irish as big drinkers as well.
Yep. There you go. The next guy that Stack and Sammy and now Slim pick up is...
Is it Cornbread?
Is Cornbread. It's a shorter scene grabbing him. Yeah. But he's sharecropper. He's working in the fields with his wife. He's
sharecropping. Both times I've seen this, I'm like, why are they working in the Jerry Bruckheimer production logo? like it's like the tree with the road. It looks exactly like. I was like, I'm going insane. It was all I could think about. But anyway, yes, they go to pick up cornbread.
To be like the bouncer, the doorman.
Yeah, you need a big tall guy to be your
tall
bouncer.
guy. Yeah. Fun little scene here with Cornbread's new wife being like, cause Stack, he's always talking about eating pussy, man.
Yeah,
he's
he loves
always
it.
talking about
He
that.
loves
He's telling
it.
Sammy how to do it. I guess oral sex in general, because he tells Cornbread with the money he'll make, his wife will let him.
Yeah.
Wife will give him a beach, dude.
Yeah.
And instead of being offended, the wife's like, "How much money?
Maybe I will. It
Yeah, she's
depends
like, maybe
how
I
much
will.
money. Yeah.
But yeah, that scene is hilarious.
Yeah.
But
They go pick up everyone's friend Cornbread. He is like a cartoon. I don't know what it like about. I think it's
he's like
just,
a cartoon bear. You
I
said
said he was like a friendly cartoon bear. I think
Yeah.
because he's so
With the
big
overalls
and he's got
and-
the overalls and the way
especially
he
in
walks
the
around.
Irish jig, the way he's walking in the
He's
background.
So
is
he's
so-
like in Robin Hood, Lil Jon.
Lil Jon, yeah.
There's just something very friendly shape about him.
He's very friendly shaped.
Yeah.
He's great. And meanwhile, Smoke, he's by himself with the truck that has all their supplies in it, all their booze. And he goes into town to meet with Grace and Bo, who are Chinese immigrants living there, running shops. And man, it's so cool. He goes into the shop and he sees their daughter all grown up, little Lisa.
Yeah.
And he talks to Bo about how, they're putting on the juke joint tonight. He needs their food. He would love a sign painted by Grace. And so Lisa has to go get Grace. And it's a one shot that follows Lisa as she walks across the street. And what's so great is how purposeful this one shot is to show how these Chinese immigrants who are running these shops are able to kind of straddle both worlds, because this is a street that is segregated.
It's segregated on one side, yeah. And we don't
so-
even see the white side of the street until this shot where she crosses over.
Yeah, but Bo, the husband and dad, he's working in the shop that patronizes the black citizens, and Lisa goes over to the street where the wife Grace is working, where it's the white side of the street, all white patrons, and Grace has to like go back over across the street. So it shows that, and this is true to the experience of Chinese immigration or immigrants in this area, and just I think commonplace. I mean, your dad even had a story about a guy in the Vietnam War.
It was so weird. He told me this story before we saw Sinners, because they were over for it was Thanksgiving. I think he told us this story. My dad was drafted. He fought in Vietnam, and he said that when you first get there after you're drafted, your first stop's in what's called the reception center. And he was saying that this guy he ended up becoming friends with, I think was like from a Chinese family.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, the military is still segregated. It's the late 60s. And he said that his friend is in the reception center, and they ordered all the white troops to one side of the room and all the quote unquote colored troops to the other side. He's still the only one just standing there because he doesn't know where to go. And later they come over demanding to know why he's still in the seating area instead of going to either side of the room. And he tries to explain they told him where white people go and where colored people go, but I don't know where to go. And apparently they just look at him and they're just, you're white. And they shoved him over to the white side, and he said the army made him white. He was classified as white in the army. He ended up making a career in the army. He retired as a first sergeant. So,
Okay.
But I instantly thought of that exact story when that scene happened in Sinners. I was like, wow, no shit.
And I thought of a scene in Nickel Boys.
Nickel Boys as well. It's
where
not,
they're at a segregated military academy, white and black, but there's a Hispanic
I think yes.
cadet there,
Yeah,
or
they
not
don't.
cadet,
Prisoner,
yeah.
juvenile prisoner, and they don't know what to do.
They don't know
with
what to
them.
do, and they put him with the white kids at first, and then later there's a scene that kind of happens in the background where they're like, "Hey, actually, you're gonna be with the black kids,"
Yeah,
and it's like devastating because of how much more abuse is happening to the black kids there.
Yeah, I almost think they used it as punishment. Like, hey, if you don't straighten up, you don't behave yourself,
You're not gonna be
we
white
can make
anymore.
we can make you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So just another little piece of history here with the Chinese immigrants who, they would run shops and stuff just like this.
Yes, I was reading about these like Chinese-owned grocery stores in the Mississippi Delta. They also arrived, a lot of these immigrants during Reconstruction. So this is 1860s is fucking crazy. The more I was learning about this, the more I was like, damn, yeah, that decade was just total upheaval and change. And apparently landowners at first were like, maybe these Chinese immigrants can work our farms. We can use them to kind of replace all the freed black laborers. The Chinese realize, oh wait, no, this is we're not going to succeed economically doing this like sharecropping, and so they are able to turn and open grocery stores. I think that probably is a privilege of not being considered black, right? They can, they have a little bit more ability, more mobility.
I mean, that's the was it model minority is a term used for Asian Americans.
It is.
Sometimes by just the idea that they are different than other minorities because they're more studious or
like see if you want respect, like other people have done it. So you look
exactly.
At, the first Chinese grocery store in Mississippi probably appeared in the early 1870s. And then what I thought was really interesting is as late as the 1970s, so these grocery stores would get passed down from father to son, so they would stay in the family. As late as the 1970s, 6 family names accounted for 80% of the Delta Chinese population.
Oh, wow.
Which is so great. And like, is there like grocery dynasty drama? I bet there was. I would love to see.
I bet.
I would love to see like a Gilded Age style show about that. That would be so interesting.
Yeah. I love Bo and Grace.
I love them too.
They're such cool characters.
Yeah. I love the way they talk. They've got such a fun twang.
Yeah, they've got a twang and like she's no bullshit. She comes in, she's like, why are there 2 men shot outside? And Smoke just had to shoot them for trying
the
to rob him.
twins are back.
Yep.
Someone got shot in the butt.
But it's like it's one of those like noble gangster kind of things where like he shoots them because he can't let them say that they almost robbed him and got away with it. But then he gives money for them to be patched up.
It's Al Capone. He's very Al Capone.
Exactly, which is what they were in the North doing.
Yeah, they were working for him. Al Capone,
enforcers.
As a preface here, as a kid, I had a weird hyperfixation on Al Capone. I loved reading about Al Capone. I think he's so fascinating. And part of the reason was, as a kid, it was so appealing to learn about like one of history's most famous bad guys, but he was nice to children and he was he gave
he's one
back
of those
to
guys,
the
for sure.
There's something
like he picked his battles. He was not a like universally evil guy. He made sure to ingratiate himself
until the
with
St.
communities.
Valentine's Day Massacre, where he killed a bunch of other rival gang members, and everyone was like, "Oh, hey, actually, maybe he's bad." He lost a lot of goodwill there. That was
That'll
a turning point.
That'll for sure do it.
But yeah, his kind of kindness and fear as a way to control people around him. That's a big part of Smoke's character too. And it makes him very intriguing and appealing for sure. But also it's a way, it's protecting your community that is marginalized. Like Al Capone came from Italian immigrant family, and at that point Italians were still discriminated against. So there's that commonality too.
We've got to mention that while picking up Slim, Stack and Sammy have encounters with their romantic interests for the movie. Sammy is doing a little performance with Slim, and this woman who immediately, when it's a crowd shot, you're immediately drawn to her. Like, even before the movie indicates that she is going to be a character moving forward, you're like, who's that? And her name's Pearline. She is interested in Sammy. What do you make of her being married? And so is Mary, who is Stack's romantic interest. They're both married women who are just like cheating on their husbands here.
I mean, I think it's kind of, it makes me think of how Sammy's dad and the twins also encourage him to like, no, you need to, straighten up, fly right, be part of the church. Like, leave the sin to other Black people. You need to, keep it together and become a preacher and, not get involved with all of this. And I think it's the idea of like, yes, there's the on paper correct way to live, but then there's the misery that comes with that for people who maybe feel forced into it. So like a marriage, like a young woman that age should be married, but she doesn't, he asks if she's happy and she's like, don't, she kind of scolds him, implying like she's not happy.
Sure, okay. I wish we had gotten a little bit more about her situation.
I kind of do
Pearline.
too, but that's how I read it anyway.
Yeah, because with Mary, who is someone who Stack fooled around with,
grew up with.
Yeah, I mean, her mom delivered the twins, and then when their mom died, raised them, which I guess makes it, is that a little weird that they're fucking?
I don't know.
No, whatever. But she says that she was in love with Stack, and it was only after he left and stayed gone that she got married to someone else. So it's like that relationship I understand. Like, he was her true love. She doesn't seem to be happy married to this rich white guy, which was probably more out of convenience and what she should have done. I would have loved to hear a little bit more about Pearline's situation.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a like Sammy is to the church as she is to being a buttoned up married woman. I think maybe married to an older man. I just assume that's maybe the situation because she seems like really young. And that's why we see her on stage later. Like, you know, she
really letting loose. Yeah.
She gets eaten out and then is like, I'm going to get up there and sing and look incredible and hot. And she just lets it loose.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what she is, like the almost female inverse of Sammy.
Gressel, I saw you leaning into your mic earlier. Did you have
I
a
just
thought?
agree. I think it's a freedom thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it needs to be necessarily, too much more than that. It's just that, like, this is a female mirror. Yeah, like you said.
Sure.
I just totally agree that, like, these are women who are trapped in the same, not the same way, but similar ways to all of the other characters. And the juke joint, as we'll get to, is a release, is freedom, for all of these people in whatever it means. And I think that it's important that there are all these different ways of being free. That every character has their own version of what it means to be free, and that even though Pearline isn't like that major of a character really, even with her relationship to Sammy, but she still has this thematic consistency of a yearning to be free. And, it's just another reason why this movie's so fucking good.
Yeah. And I bet too, I also feel like there's the implication that, like, if she's in this marriage, she's not happy in, for many reasons, one among them probably not sexually happy either.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty heavily implied.
You know,
for sure.
The fact that going down on a woman in this movie, everyone's like, oh my, what?
I think the last person they have to collect now is Annie.
Yeah.
Which is Smoke's ex.
Yes.
With whom he tried to have a child, but it died either during childbirth or maybe when she was very young, like an infant death. She still has a grave that he visits, puts flowers here, says daddy's here.
Yeah.
And Annie is a, like, spiritualist.
Well, I was also going to say Annie, played by Dead Meat Podcast legend and icon Wumi Musaku, who you may have seen in His House, which is another episode of ours that got way out of control because that movie's also similarly very dense and incorporates a lot of history that I did not know a lot about. Recommend that episode. Recommend that movie. It's very, very good. I was really excited to see her in the horror space again.
Speaking of casting, I didn't realize that Grace is played by Lee Jun Lee, who is in season 2 of, we gotta watch this, The Exorcist on Fox.
Oh.
She's John Cho's, like, romantic interest.
Okay.
So it fucking rules. Like, that's two hot people being into each other. And,
This whole cast is hot.
Yeah.
This entire cast is very attractive.
Yeah. Mary's played by Haley Steinfeld, who I didn't really know. She's a musician mostly.
Yeah.
Oh, no, she was in True Grit as a kid.
Yeah.
And she's also in Marvel.
Yes.
Oh.
And yeah.
What's she do in Marvel?
She is the new Hawkeye. So she's a young
she's in
arrow
Bumblebee?
shooting person.
She was in the Pitch Perfect movies.
She was in
Arcane.
Emily Dickinson on Apple.
Okay, so
briefly.
maybe she is equally. Is she more of an actor than a musician?
I would
actually?
say so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And she is also, I believe, in real life, 1/8 black.
She's 1/8 black
which
in
is
real life.
central to her character, Mary.
Yeah, so Annie she like makes and sells like hoodoo.
Yeah. Voodoo?
Yeah.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Shamanistic maybe.
Yeah.
It's like a medicine
like
woman.
like protective magic.
Like old world magic, it feels.
Yes, it's another thing where they talk about, music being something that they've brought with them from home. Like that's something that Slim says. I think similarly, this is something also that is brought from home.
Because there's a lot of talk about Christianity in this movie.
Yes.
And how it was kind of forced upon them.
Yes.
As slaves.
Yeah.
And this is something that would be outside of that. This
Yeah.
would be something that they owned.
Yeah. And specifically, there's a lot of stuff with the mojo bags in this movie.
Yeah.
Which I was reading a little bit about. I think those kind of originate in West and Central Africa. I was reading, but the word, there's an African, I forget what language, but there's a word that then kind of morphed into mojo.
Oh.
And then then mojo throughout the 1900s gets kind of reappropriated into I don't know, the way we more so think of it, where it's
Riz.
yeah, it's
Austin
maybe a
Powers.
bit more sexually charged. Yeah, Austin Powers.
I lost my
for
mojo,
sure.
baby.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, it's like a protective satchel that she's given to both the twins, or
I think just Smoke. I love how soft he becomes with her. It's
Yeah.
the only person with whom he shows this vulnerability because he wants her to come with them to cook for them for the juke joint.
Mm-hmm.
She won't do it until he says aloud, I love you and I miss you. And he even puts his head on her chest,
Yeah.
which I thought was an interesting parallel to just earlier. Mary said that Stack had done the same thing with her.
Oh, yeah.
Express this guy. Like, these guys are they have to project this hardened gangster front to be respected. And I like how with these women that they are in love with, they show a more private vulnerability.
yeah,
with.
and they show submission too.
They do.
Performing oral sex, looking shorter than her in this scene at a certain point.
And he's
by
like a big
laying on
woman,
her
like
chest.
tall
yeah.
and he seems deferent to her.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's crazy. I've seen a lot of discussion about this, and I do think it's an important discussion to have, how people thought that she was his mother before, obviously, I'm hoping before they start fucking in this scene.
Yeah.
But what? I don't know. I feel like even when he first shows up, aside from the fact that she does not look like, in no universe does she look old enough to be his mother.
The man's in his 30s.
I don't know. That's so, and it points to this kind of the idea of a mammy figure, right?
Yeah, more of a almost matronly appearance as
Yes.
opposed to Mary or Perline, who have a more traditionally sexy.
The stereotype of almost this house slave that's a bigger black woman that's the Aunt Jemima kind of.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I love that that's not in the movie at all. Smoke
No.
is fucking into her.
Yeah.
He fucks her right there.
But it's just discussion that has happened as a result of people being like, oh shit, I thought she was his mom at first.
Yeah.
Because the instinct upon seeing a black woman's body that looks like this throughout, through so much history of stereotypes and media portrayal, think Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
It's
not sexual.
That's your
Yeah.
first, yes.
And this whole movie, in addition to men performing and talking about oral sex on women as a good, positive thing and a thing that they are eager to do, it also shows the women very sexually forward. In this scene, she grabs his crotch.
Yeah.
Close up of her
Yeah, this
grabbing
movie's
his.
very-
It's very horny.
very horny,
which
yeah.
we've always asked for.
Yeah.
And she's grabbing his crotch. Perline during her performance, it's a very sexual one. Mary, the things she says are just whoa.
Who taught you to talk like that, young lady?
She's like, oh, well, you did tell me not to wait for you, but then you ate my, what term does she use?
She said you stuck your tongue in my coos.
Coos, yeah, and
Yeah.
fucked me so hard I thought you went back on it. It's just oh.
Meanwhile, I was so
ma'am.
distracted by her outfit. I was like, it's so cute. The hat and the dress match, and they're knitted, and it's real cute.
Oh man,
I also think it's really interesting too, though, just going back to talking about the distinct personality between the twins.
Yeah.
The way the difference in the women that they're attracted to, and the way that Smoke is attracted to such a caregiver and provider and like the acts of service of it. They're asking her to cook and provide,
and she's running her own business too. And he says he's a businessman,
right?
Yeah.
So there is it's interesting. You know, those are all very like traditionally like male roles of like, you know, power really of like she's running a business. She's the cook. She's all this. She's in charge of this. You know, and then comparing that to Stack and just the more kind of like object of it. And he has such a more like dreamer mentality, head in the clouds. Like, you know, Mary is something, she's married, she's unattainable. She's this, like
she's white,
flashy, she's white, she's flashy.
White,
yeah. So I just, it's just another thing that is just so layered and interesting and fully forms all of these characters. Those women are their own independent great characters that don't rely on twins to define them, but the twins are also defined by them.
Yeah, because later in the juke joint, when it's underway, Smoke kind of breaks down how he thinks of himself, Annie, and Stack. He says, I don't talk slick like Stack, and I don't know voodoo like Annie. I'm sorry, I said Mary instead of Annie. I don't know voodoo like Annie, but I know business. And so I think it's interesting that Mary also talks slick. Like Mary has a lot of lines that people are like, just stick with people, especially later on when she is finally trying to convince Stack to just get with her. And she's like, you rob trains and banks, but you won't steal this pussy for a night. Like, I've seen that quoted so much.
The way that Mary and Stack both talk is like very shocking on its face, but it covers up like two very in love people who kind of, I don't think they hate that they're in love with each. I think it makes them feel really vulnerable that they love each other that much,
especially back then in interracial relationship.
And Stack says as much, like this would make you unsafe, and I don't want that.
And he says that if other white people knew that you were here doing this, they would kill you.
Yeah.
Isn't that just classic vampire too? Like the curse of a love that you can't overcome. You know,
which makes the fucking ending of this movie.
Oh God,
so
I know.
Fucking
It's
good.
it's very good.
So they've collected everyone, and like I guess it's like such a clear Act 1 break. It even ends with like a little montage of everyone gearing up. Grace and Bo leaving and her like waving to her daughter, like the last time that she's gonna see her daughter. And during this montage, I remember the first time seeing it just being like, man, all these people are gonna die. And I love them all so much, and they're all fucking doomed, dude, and it sucks. And it's a nice break. After that, that's when Remick falls from the sky and he's introduced, and that whole element. We also introduce the people who he turns are clan members, like we said earlier. It's, what are their names? Bert and Joan.
Yes.
Who, these three are, I fucking love these three characters.
Oh man, these three,
so
these like
much.
this like prairie home companion traveling van. Dude, I love that he converts this couple. He like comes in and this couple goes from being like clan to the Weepies.
Like we said, he notices the clan outfit in their home, and so he is able to manipulate them by talking about the engines chasing him, you know, and gets his way into their house because he's just a white guy.
How could this? You have to protect me, fellow white man, not Irish.
And then Joan finds him eating on Bert, and he's like,
not eating out.
No, eating on.
He's eating.
Saying, he's just tired. He's taking a nap. They also have a crib in their room.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, which I don't know if they had a kid and they ate them, or if they were planning to have a kid.
I didn't notice that at all.
Both times I saw the movie, because the first time I was like, was that a crib? So I was looking for it the second time, and he's like sitting next to a crib, and so at first I thought that was who he had attacked, was like their baby, but no, it's just Bert. There's also when we see their eyes glow.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Great effect.
That effect's awesome.
And not all the vampires have the same color glow.
Yeah,
like Remicks are red.
Sometimes it's like grayish white.
Yeah, I think Stax is green, maybe.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
If it is green, I wonder if that's like dollar signs in his eyes, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's such a nice sprinkling in of like, here's our villain. They're around, they exist. We'll come back to them when we need to.
Do we just talk about the party now?
The juke joint gets
I
going,
mean,
dude. They fucking hook it up to the transformer and start letting people in. Not everyone can afford the alcohol and are trying to pay with these like wooden nickels, and Smoke gets pissed.
That's a Depression era invention, I think.
And Smoke says that like this isn't a charity, but I found it interesting that both Stack and Annie are the ones who are like, no, these people have worked all day sharecropping. They don't have the money, but like, you got to make sure that they feel welcome here if you want them to come back.
Yeah. John Taffer would agree.
Yeah.
He would say you need to build. That's why when you open your bar, you have deals like this, and it encourages repeat customers.
He wouldn't be like, you're accepting wooden nickels.
I think if it's opening night, I think he'd be okay. But if he came in, it's like, our business is failing, John. What are we doing wrong? And then he sees
You're handing out favors.
Yeah. Look at this money. It's fake. Yeah, that's when he would be upset, I think. But I think initially he would agree that, yes, you need to give back a little bit. And that's how you build your customer base. I don't think, though, that we're joking, but I don't think the juke joint, I mean, Smoke sees it this way, but historically, a juke joint like this, I don't think is primarily super concerned with just money. You know, it's not there to like bilk money out of its community. Like these are places where, like music is basically being invented. It's crazy.
And maybe that's Smoke taking a Chicago mentality.
Maybe a city mentality.
Yeah, of like, this has to turn a profit. And I mean, later they're looking at the numbers and he's like, if it continues at this rate, we're out of money in a few months. And that's what leads Mary to go talk to the vampires because they have real money. But in the meantime, Sammy eats Pearline.
Yeah.
She likes it.
Good for them.
I love the scene when is it Stack who goes and finds the locked door? And he's like, who the fuck's in this locked door? He hears her moaning Preacher Boy. And like, oh, yeah. Because everyone calls him Preacher Boy.
Yeah.
Because he's the son of a preacher. Cornbread's at the door, being the bouncer doorman. Good job for him. Slim's playing piano. Annie's cooking the food. Grace and Bo are serving it. So everyone has their job. It's great. Oh, Grace made the sign too.
Yeah, and this is when we finally get Sammy to play. It's interesting. This movie, I forget. I think I was reading a thread on the Broadway subreddit where they were talking about stories that succeed in the where there's a piece of art within the art, where the art is meant to be so moving that it impacts the plot. And that's a really hard thing to do. Hadestown is an example that it succeeds, where you're building up like this music is going to like change everyone's fucking lives, and it does, and it's incredible. We kind of get that built up here too, especially even just the opening credits. This is music that's going to summon ghosts of the past and future. So all right.
And I love how like you know it's coming because like it gets an introduction. Slim, quiets everyone down, introduces Sammy, tells Sammy to introduce himself. And Sammy plays the song he wrote for his dad about how like the truth hurts, so I lied to you about wanting to be a preacher. This fucking sequence, dude.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Dude, we were talking to Zorn yesterday at the awards. Him and Megan went and saw this, and apparently they had ordered food and the food hadn't come out yet. And Megan was like, we're starving. I need to go see what's.
No.
I know.
And while she was gone, this scene happened, and Zorn described himself sitting in this theater, being like, "Oh no, oh god, how do I get them to stop the projection for my wife who is going to miss one of the coolest fucking sequences in cinema as of late, at least."
Yeah.
This fucking thing rules, man.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
It unfolded, I was just like, I'm crying by the end of this, dude.
Yeah.
Because yes, as the movie sets up in its first lines, there are some musicians so powerful they can pierce the veil between past and present, living and dead. And so Sammy starts his song, and then I don't know the first person we see.
I think the first person is we see some like
a
pretty
West African,
traditional, African style dancers, and then,
that's the past.
Yeah,
and then some fucking decked out guy with an electric guitar.
He's got a flying V, dude.
He looks
so
like
cool.
He's like a backup
Parliament,
member of Parliament.
Funkadelic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And he's fucking jamming on this electric guitar, and that's when you realize, oh, we're in for something here.
Yeah, I thought this was such a cool. I didn't think of it this way, but Ryan Coogler said we get so much of the supernatural being bad in this movie with the vampires, and so he's like, I want to have an inverse of that where there's this supernatural moment, but we're giving the characters something good, so that it's not all just terrible. So it's this counterpart to everything else that happens,
and it's a one take, at least in appearance. I'm sure there are cuts all around, but we've got those musicians, and then it just shows all these different areas of Black music and Black culture that we've seen throughout the ages. We get like DJs, and I love how in the song, especially when I'm listening to it, the DJ is yelling things out. It's like, preacher boy, preacher boy. And it's like Soulja Boy, or like it's how like rappers will say their names in songs, and he's going by his moniker. There's also a little part in there, like I don't know if it's an instrument or what, but it's that high-pitched noise that you hear in Snoop Dogg and Dre songs.
Yes, I know what sound you're talking about. I don't know like what it is or how to describe that. That kind of like high.
You see like b-boys dancing. You see twerking. You see pop lockers. It's great. There was another like very specific. There's like some kind of funky sounding 70s guitar, like specifically that sounds kind of like Shaft and like the blaxploitation music soundtrack.
Sly and the Family Stone.
And Curtis Mayfield,
like Superfly.
Mayfield,
Superfly. That's what I was trying to think. Thank you. It's very Superfly type music in there. And then the shots going around, we're seeing all this stuff, and then it goes to Grace, who leaves her post from selling stuff, and she goes and grabs her husband from the gambling table, and they start dancing. And I'm just like, I'm in love with these two and how much they love each other. But as soon as they start dancing and joining the festivities, we see like
there's a
Chinese dancers getting involved.
There's a few of them.
And then it passes by Stack and Mary, and then a Black or like multiracial looking ballerina dances by.
I wonder if that's a reference to, I immediately thought of like Alvin Ailey, it's a famous Black ballet company.
And it's just like it's this collection of humanity and arts and all tied together in this song where, especially listening to it divorced from the movie, just from the soundtrack, it all blends together so well. And sometimes it feels like it's tearing at the seams and that it's about to fall apart. But it holds together. All the record scratching and the guitar and the electronic music, and it's so good. And then the camera like looks up at the sky, and it's a literal barn burner.
It's a barn burner. Yeah, they're
blowing the roof off
They
this
literally
place.
lit a roof on fire and filmed it, and it's like stitched in.
So practically they did that? Because then when it comes back, I love the shot of them all dancing in this burned out building. Fucking Cornbread is still sitting there.
And there's a dancer next to him just...
It's so good. And then you take this like beautiful, life-changing shot, and it tracks back, and we have the vampires
coming
watching.
to ruin
everything.
Night.
Because they were attracted to the music. Remick heard that music, because in the beginning they say not only can this music have this power, but can also attract evil. And here he is. And he's going to ruin everything. Oh, my God.
This sequence is so cool. It is like a few shots stitched together. I think primarily because since they were shooting in IMAX and like these huge format cameras, those can only... Exactly. They can't run that long. So they would stitch them together.
Oh, my God. It's so fucking good.
And just really quick about the score. Swedish guy went off on this.
Yeah, dude.
Soundtrack.
You're like, who did this? Some like real esteemed Black musician from the South? No, some white Swede. But I mean, not just some white Swede.
Yeah. They've worked together. Him and Ryan Coogler have worked together many times, and he's done plenty of other movie soundtracks.
Isn't he 2 for 2 with Oscars as of now for Best Score?
Black Panther and
Oppenheimer.
It's Ludwig Göransson. And he has received, 2 Oscars. He is 40 years old. And it must have been for, I wonder, is it Black Panther? Oh, and Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
So
they were college roommates, weren't they? Him and Ryan Coogler.
Oh my God. Oh, that's right. I saw someone being like, whoever put those guys together didn't know how much history they would be creating. But he scored Fruitvale Station, Creed, both.
Yeah, and he worked with a lot of other musicians on this soundtrack to really get the sound right.
But as of note, we should note that the actors are performing and singing their songs. Miles Caton,
yeah.
Caton, he is playing that guitar and singing with that voice. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Jack O'Connell, who is Remick, is singing. He was scared too.
Dancing, yeah.
The two vampires who he brings with them, they are actually musicians and actors. That makes sense. Peter Dreymanis as Bert and Lola Kirk as Joan, who, man, when they're doing Go Lassie Go.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Her voice is so fucking beautiful,
I
man.
know.
When Mary comes up, like...
I know, it's alluring. It's yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God, it's so good.
And that's the thing is, like, and we'll get into the other kind of music in this, is there's a lot of, like, Irish music in it, and it's amazing. It's stunning, and I've seen a few people kind of express that they feel guilty for liking the Irish music and it's like, that's the point. And like Ryan Coogler has said, like, no, this is also a celebration of Irish music. Like, he loves Irish music and culture. And he even says, like, my name's Ryan. Like, that's an Irish name, you know?
Yeah.
And so he has pushed back against the idea that this movie is somehow about, like, one culture being lesser, or the idea that Remick is attracted to black music because his own culture is, like, inferior, or that he doesn't have a culture. And, like, that's not what this is saying at all.
Yeah. And I think people are kind of predisposed to assume that in a movie with a primarily black cast of characters, especially taking place here in the 30s in the South, that they assume that the villains will be white villains who are villainous because they are racist against black people and want to do some kind of, like, culture erasure or whatever. And clearly, you know, Bert and Joan are Klan members before they turn. And
yeah, now they're part of the hive mind.
Yeah, and you have Hogwood and the whole end there.
Yes,
And they're
yeah,
straight up just
yes,
Klan
yes.
members. But Remick is not that. He is not like a white devil, even though they call him that, because
Yes.
that's their point of reference. He is not like a racist white guy who is coming to destroy black culture. He has his own history, as we discussed earlier on, being a Irish person who knows how old. He may have been there, like, during that initial colonization.
Well, he implies that he's pre-Christian.
He's pre-Christian.
Yes.
So
yeah.
that's like
like the
400 or
years.
500-ish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, like the year 500.
Yeah.
So he's pretty old because, yeah, when Sammy tries to resist him by speaking the Lord's Prayer, this Christian prayer, he says, yes, they also forced that upon me and my people and made us forget our language and our faith, which just whenever I hear about this, I always think back to that podcast where I was like, oh, Irish, don't they just speak English? Is that a language? And it's like, yes.
Yes.
Emphatically, yes.
A lot of interesting interviews with Ryan Coogler about the relationship between Irish people and black people, and there are, of course, Irish black people. He addresses it and says, like, no, Irish music's beloved within the black community. And what's so funny is in this same interview, he cites, I love this so much. He says that as a kid, he was obsessed with the decom luck of the Irish.
Yes.
One of us.
He said his entire neighborhood was obsessed with it, which is so funny because it also made me think, like, wait a minute. Leprechaun goes to the hood in 2 movies.
He does,
and he
dude.
feels like such a natural fit.
Black people loved Leprechaun in the 90s, man.
Yeah. There's such an, it's so interesting. Like, I think chaotic double feature is this and Lep in the Hood. I think that would be a great St. Patrick's Day movie marathon.
Fuck yeah, dude.
But yeah, like Coogler cites like parallels between Irish freedom fighters and Black Panthers, and he does specifically say it's important to him that this vampire in the movie is very old, and that he comes from a time that pre-exists the racial definitions that exist in the place he's in this movie. So he has survived for a long time, and he, quote, sees the bullshit that is American racism, unquote. Remek's part of a culture that wasn't considered white until recently. And it says rather than the KKK, he identifies with what's going on in the juke joint, and he wants to be part of it and wants all them to be part of him. And that's kind of the, like, this article talks about like the Faustian deal of becoming a vampire, and it makes me think of like the Faustian deal of being considered white. You like, and that's where I kind of alluded to this earlier, like Irish Americans and Irish immigrants coming to America like existed, like they were put at this very weird like crossroads where one direction they could align themselves with the Black Americans that they are forced into competition with for work, and do often end up working alongside with, and are considered of the same kind of like societal tier. They're lesser than white. Or there's the other road they take where they assimilate and just become white because they look white. You know, a few generations go by, they could totally assimilate. And that's ultimately the road that's taken. It's the Faustian bargain of like, we've now assimilated and we're considered white and we don't face this discrimination anymore. But what's the connection we have to our culture? That's kind of is what gets lost. By truly deciding to assimilate, you're abandoning these cultural markers that, you know, out you as being Irish.
Well, it's like how our parents
Yes.
were often raised by generations that maybe knew other languages, but would not teach their children those other languages because they didn't want them to seem not American, read not white.
Right.
So it was just that assimilation and the losing of that culture.
Yeah. And that's why when people say, you know, there's no such thing as white culture, that's kind of what this is, you know, that's this is like, there's no white culture in the sense that like, there's not an emphasis on connection to where you come from that exists in like Black families in the Black community, which is what Remek sees and is envious of. And he wants to regain that connection to where he came from.
I also love the implication that the removal of art is a colonial tool.
Yes.
And a tool of oppression. And that regardless of where that art comes from, it is the artless that are the true villains, which is the KKK at the end. They are never celebrating, they're never singing, they're never performing music. You see no kind of cultural art from them. The only thing that they talk about at the beginning is the business deal. And I just think that is also a great thematic element of this is the implication that there is a higher power, and that power is art and culture, not commerce.
Yeah. It's why in The Brutalist, the very jarring kind of rape scene in the second act, I think, is really important. Or in the third act, like it's in the second half of the movie, is really important.
6 acts.
Yeah, because it represents that same kind of idea of like, that is a businessman. He just knows how to take. He doesn't create, and something about that really infuriates him.
Yeah.
And he's envious of this person that he considers lesser. The architect is a Jewish man and an immigrant, and similarly here, you know, and in culture today, like there's you know, like Black music art is simultaneously like it's considered lesser than, but everyone covets it.
Yeah, and takes from it.
And borrows
Slang.
from it.
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
you think of, we were talking about this yesterday in the car when we were listening to the soundtrack, how like it is insane, especially since I've been spending so much time learning about like the blues and the history of like Black American music. Like it's insane then when you think about like country fans who get pissed off when Black musicians make country music. I'm like, are you stupid? Like, I'm sorry. Like, are you
the
fucking,
roots of that
are you
genre.
fucking stupid? I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. It's so crazy. But that's what this is it's like, it's, you know, prioritizing becoming a part of the wider whole, which here is the hive mind of this vampire group, but in real life is kind of the blob of whiteness that we all assimilated to, or immigrants would assimilate to coming to this country so that they could avoid being othered, as opposed to, you know, Black music and art that celebrates the pain of being an other and finds joy in it and takes pride in itself. And it's very alluring. I hope that made sense. It's very like delicate and sensitive stuff, and I think I'm communicating what I want to be communicating.
I think so, yeah. To try to get in, they show that they're musicians.
Oh my gosh, this is great. There's what I find so fun about this, because this song, it's Pick Poor Robin Clean, which they do. Again, this is like Prairie Home Companion shit. It's the
so fucking fun.
It's the corniest.
Well,
little...
didn't that Jaybird laugh? The little scoop they do with their instruments is so fucking great.
What's interesting is I had never heard this song before.
Yeah, me neither.
I assumed, and I'm curious if you guys did too, that it was like some Irish song. Like,
I did not. Is it?
No, this is like a is it a reappropriation of like a plantation song?
I don't know if it's quite but like around, you know, I think this arose, or this song came from like the sharecropping.
Yeah.
Because if you look
or
at
not an appropriation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at the original lyrics, which we should all be grateful they did not sing the original lyrics to this. It's about like basically, yeah, being like a farmer, like a sharecropper is from my understanding. But so them singing this is like when you see white people on YouTube do like a ukulele cover of Outkast or something is what it made me think of. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's so important that they took this specific song or a song like it and we're like, we're gonna make our own jaunty little version of it.
I love it too.
Yeah.
And Stack's
like
into it, dude.
Like,
Stack
okay,
and Cornbread are both like, oh shit, this is actually pretty good.
Listen, sometimes there's covers of songs by white guys on guitars that are like, fuck, this is actually pretty good. It's not always bad, but that's what it reminded me of.
That's so funny. It's such a fun moment, especially in the reactions that specifically Stack gives.
Yeah.
And I love how I just love Ramek so much because like Smoke asks if he's Klan and he's just like, sir. His reaction is just like the most hurt, like, how could you assume that of me? Even though the two behind him were formerly Klan.
But it's funny because he's being sincere.
He's not,
and there was an interview where Ryan Coogler was saying, like, it was important to me that even though he's the villain, he's coming from a place of sincerity here. So he's not joking when he's like, sir.
Yeah, no, he hates the Klan as much as they do, dude.
The Klan, yeah.
And he wonders why Mary's allowed in because she's white. And Annie says she's family. And they say, well, couldn't we all just be family just for one night? Mm-hmm. Alluding to this hive mind that happens when they turn someone to a vampire.
Yes, yeah.
For one night only, can't we all be family?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love him so much. I love that when Smoke ultimately, threatens him with a weapon. He's like, oh, no need for that. We'll just turn around and leave. But we'll walk real slow in case you change your mind. And they just all walk like looking back as like a kid, being sent to his room and trying to make his parents feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm just looking down at my notes, and this is kind of relevant to this scene. This is another quote from a Ryan Coogler interview that is really interesting, especially considering a lot of the discussion I've seen about this movie. Is Coogler pushed back on suggestions that Sinners is simply about white folks tearing down what black folks have built. It's more complicated than that, he says. The story also includes Chinese American and Native American characters, and O'Connell's character is marked by his own history of colonization back in Ireland. Quote, I think he has knowledge of what's really coming for these people, unquote.
Yeah, and that's what he alludes to throughout the movie. He's like, you think that you are doing something for yourself, you're making yourself free, but it's not going to happen.
Right.
Especially after, he turns Bert and Joan, and that, because of the hive mind thing, lets him know that, like, they are, Bert's the nephew of Hogwood. Who is...
the Grand Wizard, whatever Dungeons and Dragons bullshit they call themselves.
Because they're a bunch of fucking idiots. And that lets him know that, like, Hogwood, it was just setting up...
This was a trap.
...to murder the brothers.
Right.
Probably out of jealousy that these two black guys were, like, richer than him, had this money, had these ambitions. And so he knows that even though they think they're buying their freedom, setting up a business for themselves, something from us for us, that that's not the reality that they live in, that they won't be able to achieve that freedom in this society. And so might as well join this other way of living where everyone's equal. Literally, everyone shares the same mind and thoughts.
Yeah. He says, like, you know, you'll never be free. And he specifically says they'll take what you build. And alluding to, you know, this even specifically this music we're all enjoying, the music I could hear from so far away, they're going to take that from you.
Yeah. When they realize that they're not making enough money from their patrons, that's when Mary says she'll go talk to them and see if they do have real money. And that's when she walks up and they're singing that fucking song, Go Lassie Go. And if you're like me and you think that it ends too early in the movie, check out the soundtrack. There is a longer version of the song on it. Thank fuck. Because, oh man, I love it so much. And they're just so sympathetic to Mary, you know, and it's part of it is obviously manipulation, but they are like warm to her and see that she's in deep, deep pain.
Yeah,
she just
she's
had to
grieving her mother and also the pain of like, where do I belong?
Yeah.
You know, initially she's treated with suspicion when she walks up, and then
Cornbread almost didn't let her in until he
didn't
recognized
recognize
her.
her, yeah.
Yeah. And because he's like, I think you're in the wrong place. But she's let in, and I'm sure she deals with that her entire life, having, because wasn't it the 1/8 rule or
there's a really stupid and long history in this country of like laws determining who gets to be white.
There's a one drop thing.
So like one drop laws where it's like how much blood makes you black or how much blood makes you Native American. So like, for example, and like there's different laws for this in every state, but here some notable ones are Virginia in 1785 passes an act to deem who should be deemed a mulatto, which is a quarter or more Negro, but the language is very outdated. So more than a quarter black, you are considered to be quote unquote colored.
Okay.
1910, Virginia legally defines colored as 1/16 or more. So Mary would be,
yes, quote unquote colored.
So you would have, there's a really great episode of The Dollop, which is a podcast I like. It's an older episode. It's about specifically Virginia's really racist history of record keeping in regards to race. There was like one guy who basically took it upon himself to like, I'm going to really document everyone and make it weird. I forget what his name is, but it's a really interesting episode. But there would be times where like someone's life, they would go from being white to black so they would straddle this weird line.
Oh yeah. Sure,
yeah.
Depending on their ancestry.
Definitions of Native Americans also get changed. So it's like, it's a clusterfuck, and it's also arbitrary and stupid, but it contributes to like so many people feeling like I don't know what I am. And so it's pertinent that Sammy asks, like, what are you?
Yeah, he asks Mary that early on.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm a human being.
Right.
And then she, I know what you mean. My mom was half black, right?
Yeah.
Or her mom's
dad
was half black.
Was
right.
half black, yeah.
Which again is that percentage at least is apparently the real life situation for Haley Steinfeld. So I find that very interesting.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting that apparently the term mulatto starts appearing a lot because of intermarriage between Irish and African Americans.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Anyway, Mary gets creeped out by the drool, starts to walk away. Great scene as Remick pounces, and then it cuts to Perline screaming. Awesome cut. Great cut. Perline does her performance. Real good. Cornbread lets Mary in. She is turned in a vampire, but that's an easy one. It's like, Cornbread, you know me, step your big ass aside and let me in. He's like, well, all right.
And that's just like how she talks anyway. She's like kind of rude to everyone. But
yeah, and that's when she like gets with Slack.
Yeah.
And they
Stack.
I keep saying Slack.
Yeah.
Stack.
Yeah.
She gets with Stack, and they have their sex scene in which
she spits in his mouth.
Yeah.
You're all being weird freaks about it.
Apparently, a lot of people are like,
really?
I would let Haley Steinfeld spit in my mouth. Listen, I'm into a lot of stuff. I'll try a lot of stuff. I don't want anyone spitting in my mouth. That much like spit and drool. And if that's what you're into, that's cool, man.
We're not kink shaming.
We're not kink shaming.
Podcast.
I'm just taken a slight aback by the volume of people saying, yeah, that's hot. Because again, I'll try some stuff, but like that just seems like a lot of spit.
It's a lot. But hey, I hope he at least enjoys it because he gets turned to a vampire right after.
Yeah. But that's after Cornbread leaves his post. And has
Yeah,
Slim
he goes
Phil
to pee and then he gets...
building an outhouse for you. He left to pee 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of dick in here. I'm assuming fake dick.
Yeah.
Poking through his pants as he's taking a pee. And then I just love the sound design of as he's hearing whispers, his stream stops. And then he relaxes, starts peeing again, and then he hears whispers and his stream stops. And then I also love the fireflies in the background, but then you
It's
see a pair of eyes glowing.
Yeah.
And it also just made me sad that I don't think fireflies are really a thing anymore.
No.
Lightning bugs, aka as a kid.
Yeah, they
captured
were
so many in a
everywhere
jar,
as when
mason
we were
jars with
kids.
holes in them. Yeah, I kept every summer.
Yeah, that's fucked up. That
I don't
like,
think
not
kids
really
get that nowadays, man.
Yeah.
Isn't that messed up? Also, another thing, you ever notice how when driving you don't get bugs
There's
on the
no
windshield?
bugs on the windshield, yeah.
Just bugs are gone. We fucked up bugs.
Yep.
Which, like, fuck bugs, but, like, bugs serve their purpose.
So I remember thinking at this point, like, oh no, because when they catch Mary, like, eating his neck, essentially.
Stack's neck, yeah.
Yeah, Smoke shoots her, and it's like, well, party's over. And I remember at this point being sad. I'm like, oh, fuck, we're not going to get any more, like, music. But no, then we get our big Irish.
Oh, yeah, because,
jig.
like, the extras all leave.
Allegedly, the extras all leave. This was our one annoyance with this.
So here's, I'll jump ahead to one of my, there are 2 spots in this movie that I have an issue with. Not nearly enough for me to say this is not a 10 out of 10 movie. It's a 10 out of 10. But everyone leaves here except for a small cast of characters who we know. All of them have names. It's Smoke, it's Stack's body locked up, Sammy, Pearline, Annie, Grace, because Bo leaves to get the car, and Slim, who took over for Cornbread at the door. That's it. That's all who's left there, besides the body that they find that they assume has been bitten, but turns out it's just like wine from a passed out guy, and they put him out, and it's tragic how the guy, like, just this not turned guy ends up getting attacked by Cornbread and killed. But we see, because when they find that guy, they stand in a circle and do the garlic eating thing.
Yeah,
to make sure
the thing test.
Yeah, it's very thing-like, which is great. Like, which one of us is not a thing? But in that scene, that establishes that those are the only people in there. If there were any other extras, they would be in that circle having to eat a clove of garlic.
Right.
But later, when Grace yells and invites all the vampires in because of her daughter, we'll get to it, but all the vampires come in, and there's like this fight scene, but you see so many vampires tackling people. And you even see a shot later of Mary when Smoke is going to stab Annie and release her from the curse. Annie's like Mary's leaned over a body. Who are they attacking? Because during that fight scene, we get an account for all of those named characters who were left in there at this point. Grace sets herself on fire tackling her turned husband, and they both go up in flames, and it looks crazy and it's tragic and really sad. Slim holds off long enough to like cut his own arm and kind of attract the rest of them. Annie, we see her get attacked and killed. Pearline makes it upstairs with the others. But they are like tackling, these vampires are attacking.
Like, who are these people?
Who are these people? That's the one issue I have, is because, like, yeah, it's meant to be like this big fight scene, but there aren't enough on the human side for that to make sense, for there to actually be danger and fighting scenes with people we don't know. So I feel like they should have left a few red shirts in there maybe for that scene to make sense. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, just a note ahead for the kill count. I know people will just want me to count everyone who's in there as getting killed and turned to vampires, because so many of them do. But when they leave, some of them are at their car door. So I feel like some of them make it out.
Some of them, I think.
So we'd have to judge it later by the number of vampires there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all of them leave, and I mean, Stack gets he comes back through the door and is asking to be let in. Great shining shot here of him
yeah.
leaned against the door with his vampire eyes, shot from above, like when Jack is locked in the pantry.
Yeah, a shining reference. I'll accept it.
Yeah, it's not one of the overwrought ones.
It's not the
axe
yes,
swing.
yeah.
So he's trying to convince them to let him out. He ends up just kind of bursting out. Also, a lot of tension here because he initially stabs a knife through.
Yes.
And then they're like putting
Like,
their
can we
eye up to the hole.
stop putting our faces up against the door? I'm so
God, you're making me so
stressed.
anxious. Don't do that.
I'm so
But
stressed.
he ends up just kind of busting through the door and running out.
Yeah.
I don't know why him and Mary...
They run. I don't know why they all run out.
They
either.
leave after having access to being inside. Maybe it's just to join their hive mind.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
That was something I know. It was like, wait, but they're already inside. Why would they leave?
So I guess a third thing.
Yeah. I wonder if it's just they all have to be let in. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh yeah, but also when Stack dies, that's another moment that Smoke shows true vulnerability.
Yeah.
And like you feel it there. You see these twins together. They tell each other they love each other.
Yeah.
They're like so tight, and so when Stack dies, you feel that for Smoke, man.
Yeah.
And the tears, they make sense.
Mm-hmm.
He even says the best thing about me was him, which is a really sweet thing to say about your brother. Mm-hmm. What does Annie think he is at first? A hate?
I'm not sure. I couldn't figure out how to spell it, and I don't know.
H-A-I-T?
Dude, I don't know.
Sounds like some kind of
reanimated.
similar to a
body.
vampire, but not quite.
It could
later
be like
she
a
specifies.
proto-zombie.
Oh yeah, like Haitian zombies.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
we talked
it.
about that in our very old episode on zombies.
I think that might be it.
I think
then.
that might be it too. Yeah. So okay, we're gearing up montage. We're getting our garlic. We're getting our steaks.
Cornbread tries to get back in, but Annie catches that.
Why do you gotta ask to be like? This is such a funny, like, terrifying scene.
Yeah, and I did see at least one comment online being like, they relied too much on the asking to be let in thing. That's established vampire lore.
Yes.
Like, if you weren't familiar with it, that might seem weird to you, but no, that's a big thing.
And
about
I love when
vampires.
it's used.
There's a whole movie called Let Me In.
Yeah.
Or Let the Right One In.
Depending on which language version you're watching.
But that scene's great because that's when Annie finally realizes that they're vampires. But it's also interesting because I saw someone say that they felt like Cornbread speaking here changed how he talked. Mm-hmm. And it's the kind of code switching thing that happens with people where, like, before this, he sounded quote unquote more black. And here he's like, well, that wouldn't be very polite. Now, would it, Miss Annie? And like, he's speaking more like a black person might to a white person back then, where it's like deferential and trying to be more polite and, not evoke
it's
their
just
ire.
Result of being part of the hive mind.
I think so,
thing.
yeah. Why can't you just walk your big ass in here without an invite?
Yeah. I love this where they're like, okay, so why do you gotta ask? Like, it's so, I love that everyone, like, no one's stupid. And everyone's just like, okay, then why do you need to ask?
Yeah,
well, because it's polite. Okay, but you've been here all night. Why do you?
It's so fun. And they almost gets him when he gets the money, like pulls him out, but they shoot him down. This is this the Rocky Road to Dublin?
Yeah, this shit's awesome. I love this. I love that this actor could already dance like this. He did it as a kid.
He said it had been a few years since he had done it.
He like did it competitively as a kid. And
it was Irish dancing, Jack O'Connell.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. It's just so fun. I love watching everyone in the background in this scene. Like, it's just, and you're just like, this looks fun. I would maybe become a vampire.
Yeah, this looks dope as hell.
This looks cool as hell.
You know what? Actually, this morning, Molly got up and shook. And I was like, people never move fast enough to be a blur. Like, when dogs shake, they are literally...
Yeah.
His legs...
Oh, yeah.
When he's doing, like, the little kicks here and the Irish jig, they are a blur. He's moving them so fast. It's so cool.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He said he was very self-conscious and worried about singing in this, but...
Oh, I love his voice.
Oh, it's so good. This is another one I've just listened to over and over. And, yeah, I love... Like, we already mentioned Cornbread in the back of this.
I love the way
stomping
he's
around.
walking, and it's just so cute.
And then I think Stack has a really cool physicality here too, because he's
like bent over.
He's like
clapping.
bent over, clapping. He looks like I don't know, some kind of animal. Just like the look on his face is just like a huge grin, like he's really into this thing. He's like possessed.
We were just talking about that yesterday at the awards show. The idea of like vampire portrayals really leaning into like the animal aspect of it, and this like it starts to get there, which is the way everyone.
Their design is so cool, and it's like at the end we get the biggest reveal with
the
Ramek's like
claws,
claws and
yeah.
like the eyes and the drool, but like, oh man, it's great. It's a great design.
Okay, so this is when the vampires basically Molly, oh my gosh, she's knocking my notes over. The vampires allude to because they're trying to like poke weakness. They're like trying to find weaknesses in the group that's left in here, and they zero in on Grace because
Bo has been turned
He's been turned, and so then
the
the Remick is then able to learn, oh, they have a daughter, and she's back at the grocery store, and
we'll go turn little Lisa.
Yeah,
and that just Grace crashes out here.
Yeah, and that and him speaking Chinese.
Oh yeah, and also talking about oral sex with her. You like, I know how you like to be licked.
Yeah.
So, just that runner of
and
this.
And she finally just cracks and yells for all of them to come on in.
Yeah, because she tells Smoke, like, you're a soldier. Come on in.
Dude, Jeff Probst would not survive a vampire movie.
Dude, Jeff is so vulnerable to vampires. Oh, no.
That's his weakness.
That's a sketch I want to see.
Oh, my God. We would have done that 12 years ago with Practical Folks.
Good sketch.
Yeah, she tells Smoke, like, you're a soldier. You know, like, we can't just wait here. We got to make an offense. Best defense is good offense. So, yeah, she just screams for them all to come in. Get that big fight scene.
IMAX aspect ratio switch for the fight scene.
Yeah, where they're all standing there lined up and the aspect ratio changes. It's so good.
It's very good. Yeah, the Ramek and the vampires are still talking about how, like, they're not clan. They want to start a new clan based on love and family and heaven on earth.
Yeah, we could have heaven on earth right here.
Yeah, Stack is like, now he's with them, you know, because he's seen he knows what they know, and is telling his brother, like, no, they got a point, man.
Did
like,
you guys think that any of the like heaven on earth like language of stuff like that is a reference to counterculture rock and roll music? Like, is that kind of a like, I know that it like works in the context where it's not, but just given the greater movie of this, do you like, I wonder if part of that is like, is part of this an implication for like hippie language? Like, is some of this like,
maybe.
Because they're not clan, there's something else, you know, like I don't know. Just a question.
Yeah.
Because it's there.
Some love. Yeah.
It more made me think of like cults.
Sure.
Cult leaders.
Part
who
of it.
attract people with, you know, the promise of love and equality. Ramek definitely seems like a cult leader at times. But yeah, it's when they're out there singing "Pick Poor Robin Clean" again, and Grace sees Bo singing it. That's when she yells for them all to come in. And I mean, Grace, like we said, gets immolated along with Bo.
Yeah.
Annie gets bit by Stack too.
Yep.
She says, like, not you. And because of a promise she made Smoke say earlier, he stabs her so that she won't turn into a vampire. The dog wants to be on Chelsea, not me. Guess my lap's not good enough, huh? Perline's almost bit, but Sammy saves her, and then she saves him when they're up there, and she does get bit. And yes, Slim like kind of holds them off long enough for the others to get upstairs. And this is when the second of Ramek being like, Sammy!
It's Sammy! He's Remick.
Remick.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I've been saying Ramek or Ramek. Remick. Sammy! And he says, I want your stories.
I want your stories and your songs. Is this one like we're outside at this point?
Well, Perline gets killed. Sammy takes that run out the barn and like crashes.
Yeah,
I feel the wind knocked out of me.
Both times
when it
I've cringed at that, where he falls out of the window.
And then Smoke is stuck fighting Stack.
Up
there.
Yeah.
And they're rolling around and fighting. Sammy tries to make it out, and then there's like the baptism scene with Remick and him.
Great.
And that's when like Sammy is trying to say the Lord's Prayer to ward them off, but they just start saying it with him. So like obviously that's not going to work. He says, long ago the men who stole our language and faith forced those same words upon us.
Then he hits him with the guitar, and like, is this guitar
Silver?
I don't know necessarily if it's silver, but it's a dobro, so it's metal.
I was googling the type of guitar
Yeah.
it is. It's like it's like metal.
Yeah, it's like
nickel
that's
plated
what
or
has
something.
that like resonant vibrating sound.
Yeah.
That like when he uses the slide.
Yeah.
Like dobros are very commonly used for slide playing and blues playing like that. Yeah.
Well, it would make sense to me if it's silver because it
would make sense
that would be
for sure. But would that
so
kill
expensive.
him?
I mean, it's silver to the head of a vampire.
Yeah.
Silver's one of their weaknesses.
Silver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, also, would a guitar like that be silver? That seems like that would be so insane.
I think there is kind of an implication though that like it's an expensive thing. It's his uncle's guitar, Smoke and Stack's dad's guitar.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a hereditary thing. It's an heirloom,
Yeah.
They
You
say
know?
that it belonged to.
like a famous bluesman.
They
Yeah.
say it belonged to Charlie Patton, who is like considered one of the forefathers of
Delta
this
blues,
Delta blues.
specifically.
And interestingly, he was like light skinned. Like he was considered to be African American, but his ancestry was like really disputed. But now I think at this point it's like generally agreed that he is like white, black, and native.
Oh.
Possibly Choctaw cited as a possibility for his.
I also read that he was a short guy with a very gravelly, mature voice. I'm like, just like Sammy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he slams that into his head, and he's still gonna get him. Like Remick is still gonna bite into him, and this is my other one qualm with the movie.
Yeah.
Is Smoke
Teleporting.
teleports behind him and stakes him through the back, somehow getting past all the other vampires who are sitting there.
Maybe
I
they're
just thought it was Stack.
all distracted.
I'm the other twin.
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
they just were all in such pain and distracted from.
Yeah,
the,
'cause they
like,
feel
Yeah, they all
Remick's
feel.
pain.
So I don't know, but whatever.
That's the end of Remick, and then the sun rises and midnight masses all the other vampires.
Yeah, they get midnight masked.
Yeah.
I love Remick turning into like a fire tornado. It's cool.
Oh,
as
it's so cool.
fuck.
Yeah, fun fire effects in this movie. Yeah, I mean, that's the end of the vampires.
Yeah. Sammy goes
back home and loops back to the opening scene, where it turns out he refuses to drop the guitar like his
he's
dad
like
says.
clutching the broken guitar to his chest and driving away. It's so great.
Yeah, he ultimately chooses, even after this crazy night, when Smoke told him, "You're go back and be your dad's son.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do the." I've never seen a happy musician, but Sammy bets on himself and leaves.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Smoke has some business to attend to.
Yeah, we can have a little clan shootout as a treat.
Yeah, just taking these war weapons because they mentioned
It's
were in the
mentioned,
German
yes.
trenches.
Yep.
So they must have been real young.
Yeah.
And at the end of World War One, must have fought together, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they're probably teenagers.
Yeah.
And they have like Tommy guns.
He's got.
I don't know. It's probably not. I'm sure some. It's not actually a.
It is a Thompson,
Oh, okay.
or perhaps it is Midas's drum gun. Best in the game.
Is that Fortnite?
It is for.
Oh, okay.
It's the best gun in the game.
So yeah, as was foretold by Remick, the clan shows up.
Yep.
To
Wasn't lying.
Yeah, murder any people who were still left at this juke joint in the morning. But no, it's just
He shoots them
Smoke.
all. Fucking throws a grenade in one of the trucks as it's trying to get away.
both times we saw this movie, people clapped when that grenade got thrown in that car.
Oh, they were clapping the whole time when he lets loose on Hogwood at the end.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, before that happens, he gets shot in the side.
Yeah.
And then he has like a dying vision of Annie. and his deceased daughter.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding, and she said, "I love her. Like, put that cigarette out, and I'll
Yeah, I'll
give
let
her
you
to
hold her. Yeah.
Yeah, and before the shootout, he rips off his mojo bag.
Yeah,
he does
he's
not
re-
want
he's
the
ready to
protection.
die, yeah.
He's ready.
He's ready to
Everything. He's lost his love, his
brother, yeah.
It's donezo for him, man.
Yeah.
She calls him by his name.
Yeah.
And says, "I don't want you to get that smoke on her."
Oh, like Smoke, like his gangster persona.
Yeah.
Persona.
Oh, fuck. I didn't even catch that. Because, like, I noted that line both times, but, like, it's so obvious. It's right there. Wow. Awesome shit. And then the credits start, but then we're in Chicago, 1992. 30 years later.
Uh-huh.
And
60 years later.
oh fuck yeah, 60 years later from 1932 to 1992 is 60 years later. Sammy, now close to 80 and played by Buddy Guy,
Yeah, hell yeah.
Russell has seen live before.
Yeah.
You saw him live with BB King.
BB King, yeah. And
where was that at?
That was at Pine Knob.
I was like, that's a Pine. That's a
Such a
Pine Knob
fucking
ass
Pine
line.
Knob show.
That
And
sounds.
it
Oh
was
man.
cool as shit.
I bet.
There is something different when those guys play the blues. It is awesome.
Yeah, I bet.
Buddy Guy with the prosthetic scar.
Yeah.
From Sammy's slash that Remick gave him.
Yeah.
And he closes out the show. That
I
he's
noticed
performing.
that his band is like
The
Pearline.
Perline.
Yeah.
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 It's named after her.
Yeah.
But then, he's chilling. It's a mid-credit scene, and the doorman is like, can I let these two in? They wanted to talk to you. He said, yeah. It's fucking Stack
Yep.
and Mary.
Come on in. Come on in.
Come on in. Stack reveals that Smoke did not kill him. He let him live as long as he promised to leave Sammy alone and live out his days.
Mm-hmm.
And his days are almost out.
Yeah.
He vampire sniffs him, and he says, we could, bite you, turn you. You could tour as this 80-year-old.
Yeah, I'm sure no one would have any questions.
Yeah. He says, I think I've seen enough. But yeah, I was thinking about how with Stack and Mary, this is like the last time in like culture that they would be able to forever keep their same appearance and kind of just disappear from one area and pop up in a new area and live a different life.
Yeah.
Because this is before like digital traces of things.
Yeah,
and,
everything's so like everyone's so documented and
Yeah.
surveilled now. Like
early 90s
social
feels like the last
security
time.
numbers and stuff.
and
Yeah.
security cams everywhere.
Yeah,
And just like this, I feel like early 90s is the last time you can just like kind of just pick up, leave, pop up, totally different part of the country and just be like, this is my name now.
Yeah, like listening to true crime stuff about like things before the 90s is like, oh, people could get away with all kinds of shit because there just wasn't the same system.
Like the stepfather guy.
Like the stepfather.
Shit like that,
Yeah.
I mean, what's great about them living into the 90s, besides the awesome outfits that they have, Stack in the most 90s shirt possible.
The ring.
The ring that says
it's the
Stack.
dollar sign.
Yeah,
It's
like,
Stack.
because who would that be like?
It's like Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, it's
like,
Radio Raheem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
which
good.
like that movie cited as an inspiration because it's like the 24-hour kind of.
Oh, sure.
thing.
Yeah. And obviously, I can't believe we never mentioned it. From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
Huge inspiration
Big
here.
inspiration.
Very similar structures, totally different tones. That movie's much more campy.
Yeah.
And in that movie, the bar is like a trap for the people, whereas in this movie, it's a safe haven.
Yeah, but
You
it
know?
is also a trap.
Yeah.
Okay. I see what you
But
mean.
yeah, the vampires like specifically lured them inside in From Dusk Till
Yes,
Dawn to
yeah,
feast upon them, whereas this, they're trying to get inside. But yeah, I love that Stack and Mary have lived into the 90s, into a time when they are able to openly be with each other romantically.
Yeah.
We see them walking in and leaving the place with their arms around each other, whereas obviously in the 30s, when they were living, their love was forbidden.
Right.
They couldn't be together publicly, and now they can be, even though and like this is mind-blowing, it was, I'm pretty sure, into the late 90s, interracial marriage in the United States still only had like a 50% approval rating.
That's so crazy to
Which
me.
is, it's nuts.
What, like just when people like general like surveys
Approving of
done,
it. Yeah, like in surveys. And it just goes to show you that like how recently in the past, like when we were growing up, there was still like half the country against interracial marriage.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show like how, we're still living in that time, in the effects of that time, and how social changes take place. But it's just such a happy ending overall because, I mean, Sammy, he tells them on their way out that like that night was traumatizing. Every week he wakes up scared and thinking about that and being worried that they're going to come back and get him. But until the sun went down, that was the best night of his life, the best day of his life.
Yeah. And then Stack says that was his experience as well. And it's really sweet.
Yeah.
This like nice moment before they both part ways, probably for the last time.
Yeah, because like that was the last time he saw the sun, which there's a shot of them,
Yeah.
looking at the sun going down before the juke joint gets going. It's very pointed. It was the last time he saw his brother, and then it has that shot of the three of them driving down the road, and it's that song starts, and just like every time I'm just
I know, it's so sweet and moving, and Shame some people have left the movie not realizing it's there.
Yeah. It makes sense to me for it to be a mid-credit scene because it takes place so vastly in the future from the rest of the story. It feels like it needs a demarcation.
You need like a breather before you.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
But theaters definitely shouldn't turn the lights on, and people, I mean, it gets to it pretty fast. Just like chill out for a second.
That's true. It does feel, because I was paying attention the second time. I was like, okay, how long was it before it gets to this? And it's not long.
No.
And there's footage throughout the credits, so it's...
of him playing and it's saying it's 1992. So unless you think, oh, it's just going to be this old guy, like old version Sammy playing music for a little bit and you leave, like just chill out for a second.
It feels very like people missing the last song of a concert because they want to get out of the parking lot.
For sure,
I'm
yeah.
like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Just chill out.
And then there is a post-credit scene.
Which we did miss the first
The
time.
first
yeah,
time.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, we stuck around the second time because we had heard about it. All it is Miles, Caton.
Yeah, it's Sammy singing. We see like bits of this footage through the movie.
Oh yeah,
It's you see brief moments of it, but it's him singing "This Little Light of Mine,"
which is what the children's choir is singing in the church when he
it's
gets
like
there
a cool
in the beginning.
bluesy version of it.
Yeah. So just a nice little encore for you.
Yeah.
There's so many things we didn't talk about at all. We never talked about like really Stack and Slim's dad and how, when they first pick up Sammy, he asks like, does your dad beat you? Like that's the first thing he asks.
Yeah.
Like they're concerned about that. There's just so much.
There's
a lot of those Slim mannerisms that we both got a kick out of. Just like,
his little knee wobble. Just so many. Like that's the thing is this movie. You start exploring you start pulling at one thread, and then there's so much more. It's like Nope in that way too, where it's like there's one story, but so much informing it that once you start analyzing it, it's like, oh man, all right, we've got our work cut out for us. Trying to review this thing, but
I hope we did a decent enough
job. I hope
job.
we did an okay job. I did a lot of homework. I maybe almost did too much because I think I ended up feeling very mentally overwhelmed by how much I had here, but I also feel like I had to because this deserves it.
Is there anything from your notes that we didn't talk about that you just want to like allude to as like, we know that there's this aspect here, even if we didn't get to it in this 2-hour plus episode?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, you know what? There's plenty more occasions for this movie to be discussed on the channel.
Yeah.
It'll get a kill count, and then next year at the awards, you'll see it all over the place.
Yes.
With all the behind-the-scenes info and background information. So this is not the end of Sinners coverage on Dead Meat, but I hope that it was a good, informative, rewarding one. I feel like your research was very valuable, and I'm thankful for you. Thankful to you for doing it.
Thank you. I'm just looking and I'm like, did I miss anything? All I see when I first look at this page is Wami's so pretty. I'm like, okay, that's not. I'm like, we know she's beautiful.
Wait, who?
Wami Masaku. That was just the first thing I saw when I
yeah.
looked at my notes. I'm like, okay, that's not like historical context. It's
I
just
only really
me.
know her from Lovecraft Country, and she gets kind of sidelined in that
Oh,
show.
yeah.
and
Who's it?
Wami Masaku.
Yeah, Annie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like that show ends up not being that good, but she's great in it, and she gets kind of sidelined. So like Erica and I were like, oh fuck yeah, she gets to be awesome in something.
Yeah.
She was great.
She's amazing.
Everyone is. It's a great
Everyone
movie.
is.
It's
Yeah.
fucking awesome. I am so thrilled with it. Favorite of the year so far. Sorry, Companion.
I know.
Love you.
Sorry,
love you,
companion. Sorry, ugly stepsister.
Oh yeah, that's good too.
I love you both still a lot.
Yeah. No shame here, dude.
No, this movie's just
Doing a lot.
cinema.
Let us Sinnersma.
Sinners.
Let us know what you thought, and yeah.
See it in a theater.
See it in a theater, dude.
Yeah.
Be part of this.
Yes.
It's fun. It's like Barbenheimer. Like, be a part of it, man.
It's event cinema. We love it.
Yeah.
But cool. Until next time, I'm Chelsea.
I'm James.
And that's
That's
Gressel. Thank you,
Gressel.
Gressel,
Thanks a
for
lot,
sitting
Gressel.
through this long ass episode.
I know you just want to get back to Blueprints.
The worst
We
part
wanna get back
about
to
this
Blueprints.
episode is not watching Sinners.
Yeah.
I know.
Like the whole time I'm just like, I just want to be
Yeah.
watching this movie.
Yeah, especially as you've only seen the one time.
I know. I
The
can't
second
wait.
time's great.
I can't wait to see it again.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see it again.
But this has been the Demi Podcast.